The Oldest Member.
Listen to the tale of a stalwart male who lost his well-known nanny. Donald was his name, and golf was the game that made him grey like his granny. He practiced.
Maurice Denham, as the oldest member, tells another tale by PG Wodehouse. Today, Jane goes off the fairway.
And dirty in the locker room every night. He'd sing of his awful plight. Oh, the dirty little Bill.
The terrace at Prior's Heath Golf Club is a pleasant place, and on a lazy summer's afternoon in the 30s, the oldest member sits there, dozing over his copy of Wodehouse on Golfing Technique. But his slumber is interrupted by the arrival of Jon Atkins, for the young man is scurrying about and moving things. The oldest member uncloses his eyes, blinks in the light, and makes the obvious inquiry.
Ah, Atkins, you're looking for something?
Yes, a book. I wish people would leave things alone.
Well, you think that someone has moved it?
Well, they must have done it. It was here when I went into lunch. Yes, a novel called The Man with the Missing Eyeball. You haven't seen it, have you?
Oh, indeed not. And I dare say you're better without it.
I was enjoying it.
Oh, I'm afraid I cannot approve of these trashy works of fiction. You'll be more profitably employed with a book such as mine. Oh, the giants of golf had much to teach mere mortals such as us.
May I see?
What's that odour? Ah, the flowers in your buttonhole. White violets, I think.
Yes, white violets. A girl gave them to me. They're nice, aren't they?
Charming, and also rather evocative.
Evocative?
It's a fine coincidence that you are wearing white violets and looking for a work of fiction. Two elements in a story I've cherished for years.
A story?
Oh, it's a remarkable one. Sit down, I shall tell it to you.
Yeah, well, thanks, but actually I've lots to do.
No, really, surely not. Or you wouldn't be looking for your book. Sit down, my boy. Now, I've a little hock left from lunchtime. Pour yourself a glass and learn something of Prior's Heath's history.
Oh, very well. Thank you. It's all about white violets, is it?
No, white violets are heavily featured, yes. Now, also a woman's feelings, and, of course, a fair amount of golf. The tale concerns two members of this club, Jane Povey and Robert Mills. Fine young couple. I'd watched them grow up, and indeed I'd had the honour of showing them some of the finer points to the game at an early age. They were boon companions, and it was always assumed they would marry. And eventually they did, but before they fulfilled their destiny, there was a hiccup. At 20, Jane evinced a curious spasm of romantic sentiment, which caused her briefly to fall under the spell of one Rupert Spanier. Now, this Spanier was not only some sort of poet, but also incredibly a non-golfer. It's painful to recall that Jane actually allowed herself to be engaged to such a person for some months. However, nature has a way of correcting her mistakes. In due course, the scales fell from Jane's eyes, and she broke off her engagement. A year later, she and Robert Mills were married, here at St. Cuthbert's on the Hill, and a dozen members of this club formed a triumphal arch with their putters as the couple left the church. 2 hours after the ceremony, the pair were out on the links in the final of the mixed foursomes. We all thought it a good omen for their future when they won it, hands down. Later, some of us escorted them to the station to see them off on their honeymoon, which was to be a tour of the country's finest golf courses. All seemed set fair for a life of connubial bliss. And yet, I sensed a lurking fly, which might at a later date dive into the ointment. I was moved to take Robert aside while Jane powdered her nose in the waiting room. Robert, a quick word, if you please.
It'll have to be quick. The train's waiting. They're just loading our clubs on board. Is it important?
It's of the essence. You must be aware of a strong romantic streak in your new bride. Now, it's a weakness which may cause her, like so many young wives, to attach great importance to what might seem to you to be trivial things.
I thought you said it was a quick word.
Yes, well, I'll be brief. Now, it's very likely that Jane, in the manner of her kind, will expect you each year to remember the anniversary of your wedding day. And if you forget it, she'll be madder than a wet hen.
Oh, that. Don't worry, I've thought of that myself.
But I do worry. Unless you take steps, sooner or later you'll forget. It's a wound from which few marriages recover.
Can't happen, old boy. I've got a system.
A system?
You know Jane loves white violets.
Oh, does she?
Crazy about them. That bloke Spanier used to give them to her. That's how I got the idea. Nothing like learning the shots from your opponent.
How have you used this knowledge?
I fixed with a florist to send white violets to the little woman every year on May the 5th. And I've paid 5 years in advance. So, if I do forget the day, the flowers will turn up to remind me. Foolproof, eh?
The honeymoon, I gather, was a great success. And when Jane and Robert came home, they settled down to married life like any other happy, well-adjusted couple. There'd be a round of golf each morning, plus 2 every afternoon. And in the evening, they'd sit together after dinner in that blissful togetherness that only true lovers know, reminding each other of the best shots they'd played at the various holes. It seemed the perfect union. And yet, the fly, which I'd hoped Robert had swatted at birth, was still alive and was now preparing to move ointmentwards. As May the 5th approached, a fear crept into Jane's heart that Robert might forget its significance. I mean, after all, the perfect husband doesn't wait till the day itself to introduce the topic. A week ahead, he'll say things like, aha, this time last year I was getting my silk hat polished up for the wedding. Yes, but no such words did Robert Mills utter. May the 5th arrived, unheralded, and it was with a feeling of foreboding that Jane came down to breakfast. She was first at table and was pouring coffee when Robert lumbered in and took his seat. He opened the paper and began to peruse the golf news. Eventually, Jane spoke.
Robert?
Hello?
Robert, what day is it today?
Tuesday, old girl. Don't you recall that yesterday was Monday? All day, in fact. Is your memory going a bit?
I don't think so. I just thought today might be something special.
Not as far as I know. Portuguese Open doesn't start till Friday. Ah, sausages and fried bread. Jolly good. Then, Jane, old girl, there's something I want to say to you.
Yes, Robert?
Something important.
Yes?
It's about these sausages. They're the best we've ever had. Where did you get them?
From Brownlow.
Stick to him. He does a very nifty sausage.
Jane left the table and walked out into the garden. The sun shone, but for her the day was bleak. Her soul cried out at the realization that her husband could forget their nuptial day. In short, she could have beamed him with a brick. She was still thinking dark thoughts when the postman came up the garden path and handed her 2 circulars in a mysterious parcel. She broke the string and beheld a box containing white violets. Well, the effect, of course, was electric white violets, her favourite. But who were they from? No message came with them. Even the name of the florist was absent. And then it came to her. Rupert Spanier used to give her violets. Of course, it must be he. Oh, this was such a poetic thing to do. She'd handed him his hat and given him the air, but he still remembered the day she passed from his life. Jane Mills was basically a sensible girl, and she loved Robert, so she told herself that he was just a chump and got on with her life. But she cherished her violets secretly and pressed them in a book when they began to wilt. And she did the same with those which came for the next 4 years. It was shortly after their 5th anniversary, which Robert had forgotten like all the others, that the fly finally took the plunge. And now I must focus on the man's Spanier, distasteful though the task may be. For years he confined himself to poetry, but suddenly he broke out in a new place and inflicted on the public a novel called The Purple Fan. Now, I first learned of this offence when I called at the bookshop to secure my copy of the Golfer's Yearbook. 2 things caught my eye. One was an enormous display of volumes with the same purple jackets and the same picture on the front of a half-baked female looking at the moon, and the other was Jane Mills, peering at the book display with somewhat the same expression. Oh, good afternoon, Jane. How are you?
Oh, hello. I'm fine, thanks. What do you think of Rupert's book?
Huh? Oh, the old Vicarage Grantchester and so on. Well, it's a lot better than all this modern stuff.
No, not Rupert Brooke. Rupert's book. Look, Rupert Spanier, my fiancé of many years ago. His novel's all the rage.
Oh, indeed.
It's had the most wonderful reviews. I'm here to buy my copy before they all go.
Oh, but is that wise? I mean, Robert may not care to find it lying around the house.
It's all right. I'll put it in the bookcase. He'll never see it there.
Spanier's book was, I regret to say, an enormous success. Indeed, it swept the country like Spanish influenza. I was determined to resist it, but when I read that the Guildford Mothers' Union had voted to have it banned, I was reluctantly compelled to buy a copy. The book was as bad as I'd feared, a gallimaufry of romantic slush, whose sole value I felt might be as an emetic. I gave my copy to the man who came to fix the drains. Alas, Jane Mills took a different view. Along with half the women of Britain, she identified strongly with the book's heroine, Vilma French. To Jane, the novel was a masterpiece, and she treasured it beside her album full of violets. Well, the damage could have stopped there, but fate was not satisfied. It decreed that on a trip to London, Jane should come face to face with Rupert Spanier. And this she did, as she took a short cut through the gardens in Hanover Square. The scene, which I now recall as a painful one, yet there's a certain repellent fascination in Spanier's tactics. Now, bear in mind that 5 years on, he'd forgotten all about Jane and didn't recognize her. All he knew was that here was a pretty girl who seemed to have a thing about him, and it was his golden rule never to miss such an opportunity.
Rupert, it's you.
Yes. Yes, it's me.
After all this while.
Yes. Hello, little one.
How strange that we should meet like this.
Yes, after all this while.
How many years has it been?
It seemed like 100 without you.
And yet it must be just 5.
5 years too long. Shall we sit down? There's a bench here.
Yes. I got the violets, Rupert.
That's good. You've got the violets. That's capital. I was wondering if you got the violets.
It was just like you to send them.
Oh, there's no need for thanks.
And after I'd treated you so badly. But it really was best for both of us that I broke it off. You do see that, don't you?
Oh, of course, little one.
So you didn't forget me, Rupert?
Forget you? Does the parched earth forget the rain that briefly made it bloom? Does the
I read your novel. I loved it.
I hoped you might. You see, I wrote it for you.
For me?
I thought you might have guessed. You saw the dedication.
The dedication?
To one who will understand. Who could that be but you?
Oh, Rupert.
And didn't you recognize Vilma?
Recognize her?
She's you.
Oh, Jane was overwhelmed, but she knew that she must go to catch her train. They exchanged current addresses, and of course Jane's card bore her name, so at least Spanier knew who she was. The poor girl's mind was in turmoil as she returned to the country. So, Rupert had remembered her all this time, and she was the heroine of the Purple Fan. She was glad Robert was still out on the links when she got home. She was able to reread parts of the book in which Vilma was at her most provocative. Jane could see it now. That was the way she'd behave if freed from bourgeois restraints. In the circumstances, some guardian angel should have made Robert arrive in good fettle, immaculate, amusing, and eager to see his wife. And alas, it must have been Angel's day off, for Robert presented a different picture. It had been raining heavily, and there was mud all over his face and clothes, plus sand in his hair after a bad time in the bunker. His shoes squelched on the carpet.
Ugh, beastly round. 10 over par. Mind if I put these shoes on the mantelpiece?
I think they'd be better in the scullery, on some newspaper.
Right. What have you been doing, old girl?
Oh, shopping.
See anyone you know?
Yes. I met Rupert Spanier.
Spanier? Good Lord, is that bird still around? I thought he'd been lynched years ago. Looks like negligence somewhere.
Robert's flippant response was not what Jane had hoped for. Any of the handsome young men who surrounded Vilma French would have exploded at the mention of a rival's name. Robert just took his boots to the scullery and found an old newspaper. Then he saw the paper had a piece about golf and squatted there reading it. For months, the marriage staggered on. Even Robert noticed a change in his wife. She was listless and distrait, and right off her game. He suggested Carter's little liver pills, but to no avail. Some days Jane declined to go to the links at all, and Robert golfed alone. Meanwhile, Jane pored over the Purple Fan and studied Vilma French's behaviour. Frequent references were made to her silvery laugh, and Jane felt this was something she should work on. She rehearsed in private and even tried it once or twice on Robert, but once more the effect was not what she would have wished.
I say, old girl, I know you won't mind my mentioning this. I'm sure you're not aware of it yourself, but just lately you seem to have developed a sort of silly laugh. Nasty thing to have about the house. Do you think you could sort of turn it off, old bean?
It was the last straw. Jane didn't deign to respond, but after a moment's pause, she blurted out her bottled-up resentment.
Robert, I want to say something.
Yes?
Robert, I'm feeling stifled.
I'll open the window.
That won't help. I'm feeling stifled in Prior's Heath. No one here does anything but play golf and bridge.
Is there something else we should do?
A million things. Art, music, poetry, all unknown in this beastly village. How can I express myself here? How can I fulfill myself?
Do you want to?
Of course I want to. Robert, I shall never be happy till we leave this ghastly place and go to live in a studio in London.
Oh, all right, old girl. We'll pop off as soon as I can sell this cottage.
I can't wait that long.
Oh, okay. We'll go next week.
And so Robert, Jane, and their small son, Braid Varden Mills, moved to Chelsea, into what the estate agent called an attractive bijou studio apartment. It was certainly bijou. There was a nice bedroom for Jane, a delightful cupboard for little Braid, and a cosy corner for Robert behind a Japanese screen. There was also a large room with a big skylight, furnished with cushions and samovars, where Jane gave parties for the intelligentsia. Well, we've seen that Robert was extremely tolerant, but these parties finally plunged the iron into his soul. To be invaded nightly by hordes of odd types in floppy ties stunned him. Jane would sit enthroned on her cushion, exchanging badinage with rising young poets, and laughing that infernal silvery laugh of hers. Robert would be squashed in a corner, trying to fend off some bobbed-haired female who wanted his views on Augustus John. Well, all this had the most disastrous effect on his golf. Once or twice he managed to escape Chelsea and get to a suburban golf course, but there he found he could neither express himself with the niblick nor fulfill himself with the putter. As with Jane, there came a point when this team had to escape. For Robert, it came after an awful evening listening to Rupert Spanier read his latest verses to a throng of admirers. Spanier, of course, was the leading figure in Jane's soirees, and Robert's indifference, which had once miffed Jane, had now ripened into hatred. When the last guest had gone, Robert spoke.
Jane, I'd like a word about this Spanier bloke.
Well?
He gives me a pain in the neck.
Really?
Oh, please don't do that laugh, old girl.
Please don't call me old girl.
Why not?
Because I don't like it.
You used to.
I don't now.
Oh, well, sorry. I'll try to stop it, old girl. Anyway, this Spanier fellow, either he stops coming here or I push off.
Indeed?
Yes, in jolly deed. I stood a lot, but pie-faced Spanier is beyond endurance.
He is not pie-faced.
He is pie-faced. Come with me to the Vienna Bon Ton Bakery and I'll show you a custard pie that might be his brother. He has to go.
Certainly not.
Then I will.
That's up to you. Excuse me. I have to note down some of the bon mots we heard this evening.
Robert went to his corner and started packing. When it was done, he walked to Jane's door for a final word, but then from inside came the sound of a silvery laugh, so he left. Well, once back in Prior's Heath, Robert threw himself into an orgy of golf and revelled in his new freedom. But alas, euphoria of this kind rarely lasts. And I found him one day brooding in the bar. If not disgruntled, he was certainly very far from being gruntled. Oh, Robert, you look a bit down in the dumps.
At present, the dumps is my permanent address.
Oh, how come, dear boy?
I miss Jane.
Ah, I thought you were enjoying your bachelor life.
Not anymore. Yesterday I did the long hole in 4.
Oh, good Lord.
It needed a 20-foot putt, and I sank it sweet as a nut. I found myself saying, "How about that, old girl?" And then there was no answer, and I realized that she wasn't there.
For now it is all downhill for Robert Mills. What shall it profit a man if he does a hole-in-one and has no wife to praise him? Now, he, too, began to neglect his game and lurked at home, sinking deeper into despair. And then one day the postman brought a letter from Nunn and Pope, florists. They noted that his deposit for the annual dispatch of violets to Mrs. Mills had been exhausted. Did he wish to renew the same? Well, Robert gasped. The violets! Yes, he'd ordered violets for Jane all those years ago. They'd been lovers then, and what had happened to change that? Well, whatever it was, he would put it right. He brushed an unmanly tear from his eye, grabbed his hat and coat, and sprinted for the station. Now, in London, Jane, too, was having second thoughts. She'd never expected to miss Robert, and now, in some curious way, she did. He was that sort of cove. You didn't notice him when he was there, but when he wasn't, the whole landscape seemed to change. She began to find her new friends irritating. They smoked too much, they talked too much. And the most tiresome, she was beginning to feel, was Rupert Spanier. And then came the revelation. It was delivered by Naomi Grit, her cubist painter friend who lived downstairs. Grit popped in one afternoon, as was her wont.
Oh, Mills, old chap. Glad you're in.
Hello, Gritty.
Popped in to borrow a cigarette. Used up all mine.
So have I, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Too bad. Oh, well, I'll just have to go out and get wet. Rupert Spanier smoked all mine this morning. Bloody sponger, that man is.
Yes, he smokes rather a lot of mine.
He's got the charm, of course. A bit too much for my taste.
Yes?
Has he told you yet that his heroine in Purple Fan is based on you?
Yes, he did tell me that.
I hope you didn't believe him. He pulls that one on every girl he meets.
What?
He even tried it on me once. Just for practice, I suppose. Well, if you've got no fags, I'm off. Pip, pip, Millsy.
Jane sank into a chair, her brain reeling. So, Rupert Spanier was a blackguard, and she wasn't Vilma French. She was Robert Mills' wife. But where was Robert now? Through misty eyes she saw their child pick up something to play with. It was one of her long-neglected golf clubs, and with horror, Jane noticed something dreadful. He was holding it all wrong. And at once she was consumed with guilt. Not only had she deserted her husband, she'd also betrayed her child. He was almost 5 and didn't know how to hold a golf club. Well, she hurried over to put him right.
Look, dear, let Mummy show you. The left hand here and the right hand here. Now try it. Here's the ball.
Sorry, old girl, but you've got his left hand much too high.
Robert.
Hello, Jane. Hello, Braid.
Hello, Daddy.
Just thought I'd look in.
Oh, yes.
Beastly weather.
Yes.
Wet and all that.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, I wanted a word about those violets.
Violets?
The ones I've sent you every year. I know you're a bit fed up with me, but would you mind if I renewed the order, just for old time's sake?
Oh, Robert, you sent the violets? Oh, Robert.
Steady on, old girl.
Can we come back to Prior's Heath?
Of course you can. There's an excellent train at 6:30.
And I'm pleased to say that Jane and Robert won the mixed foursomes again that very year.
A charming story. I'm surprised you disapprove of novels. That would make a good one.
Well, I disapprove of novels, dear boy, because they're a waste of valuable reading time. When a golfer isn't golfing, he should be studying golf books.
Sorry, but I like a good story. I wish I could find the man with the missing eyeball. I say, what's that on the chair next to you? Is it under your newspaper?
Could this be what you're looking for? I just glanced at it to see what the younger generation is reading, you know.
Well, that's all right. Just as long as I know where it is. You can borrow it if you like.
Oh, well, perhaps I might just skim through it. And you can borrow Wodehouse on golfing technique if you'd care to.
In the locker room every night, he'd sing of his awful plight. Oh, the dirty little Bill, and roll down the hill and roll right into a bunker. From there to the green I took 13, and then by gosh I sunk her. I get no fun.
Jane Goes Off the Fairway was narrated by Maurice Denham in the role of the oldest member. Rupert Spanier was played by Jon Glover, Jane by Sue Holderness, Atkins by Gordon Kane, Robert by Jonathan Cecil, and Naomi Grit by Anna Sharkey. The oldest member is adapted by Edward Taylor and Michael Pointon from stories by PG Wodehouse and produced by Edward Taylor.
able to finish. He had a slice that was far from nice. From him it never parted. Once he hit a shot, believe it or not, that came right back where it started. Do you wonder that he groans and sighs and wails and moans? Oh, the dirty little pill went rolling down the hill and rolled right into the water. The reason it would seem was I lifted up my beam and I know that I shouldn't oughter. Then I hit a shot that I liked a lot, but it sailed right into the marshes and I wished right then, like a lot of other men, that I had worn my galoshes.
And there's more from the oldest member at the same time next week.
The Oldest Member.
Listen to the tale of a stalwart male who lost his well-known nanny. Donald was his name and golf was the game that made him grey like his granny. He practiced
Maurice Denham, as the oldest member, tells another tale by PG Wodehouse. Today, Farewell to Legs.
In the locker room every night, he'd sing of his awful flight. Oh, the dirty little bill and roll down the hill.
The clubhouse at Prior's Heath Golf Course is usually a peaceful place, where men quietly discuss their recent games with proper gravity and purpose. But it's different on Saturday night, when some of the younger members bring their girlfriends into the bar. Now voices are loud and mingled with laughter. A note of revelry creeps in, and the oldest member creeps out. He flees to the deep peace of the cardroom, there to meditate and relive games of long ago. But tonight he's awoken by a fellow refugee.
Mind if I sit down?
No, please do.
I can't stand it out there any longer.
Well, this Saturday night bacchanalia is not to my taste, but you're young. I'd have thought you'd enjoy it.
I did, until Josh Hook started with his blasted bits of string.
It's a string.
Oh, he's doing silly tricks with bits of string, and all the girls are fawning over him, as if he were Clark Gable. Makes me sick.
And is your fiancée among them?
Yes, she is.
Rest assured all will be well. This man's tricks with string may dazzle the girl tonight, but his glamour will pass. She'll be herself tomorrow.
You think so?
Oh, yeah, I'm convinced of it. I've seen many of these party hounds. Their appeal never lasts. And as for this Hook, well, his laughter is as the crackling of thorns under the pot. And his handicap is 24. No, he's just another Legs Mortimer.
Who was Legs Mortimer?
Precisely what Angus McHugh wanted to know when he saw him blowing kisses at Evangeline Brackett from the clubhouse veranda.
Angus McHugh? Evangeline Brackett?
I perceive you're anxious to hear the whole story.
Oh, yes, sir. Well, thank you.
I shall tell you. Angus McHugh was a serious golfer, and in Evangeline Brackett he seemed to have found his female counterpart. The two had just become engaged and seemed set for a rosy future both in life and on the links. And then this interloper came loping into their lives. Angus was first aware of him as they finished a round one day and made their way back to the clubhouse. He was shocked to observe a young man leaning on the veranda rail and blowing kisses at his betrothed. What was worse, the young man had a natural wave in his hair.
Evangeline, who is that man?
Who? Where?
Fellow on the veranda. Seems to know you.
Oh! It's Legs! Oh! Yahoo!
Just a moment, Evangeline. Did you say Legs?
Yes, Legs Mortimer. Oh, come on, let's go over and talk to him. Legs Mortimer? Oh, it's you.
In person, not a cartoon. Honey, you look lovelier than ever.
Thank you. But what are you doing here?
Everyone's got to be somewhere, sweetness, and I've moved to Prior's Heath. Bought the Clive's old house. I've joined this club as a social member, and very social I mean to be.
Oh, but that's marvellous. You'll really wake this place up.
Trust me, beautiful, there'll be many a jocund party thrown in this mausoleum now old Legs is here.
Oh, yes, sorry. Legs, this is my fiancé, Angus McHugh.
Och, Angus McHugh, how do you do? Hootsman, Scots way, long may your rum reek.
With mounting horror, Angus watched as the newcomer broke into a sort of Highland fling. He realised with sinking heart that here was a life and soul of the party man, a perfect scream, a priceless fellow who simply makes you die with the things he said, what I earlier called a party hound. But what was he to Evangeline, and what right had he to be so familiar? As he walked her home, Angus broached the subject carefully.
Evangeline?
Yes, Angus.
This fellow Mortimer.
What about him?
Exactly. What about him? Who is he? Where did you meet him? What's his handicap?
Well, I met him in Switzerland last winter. He was staying at the same hotel. He has a private fortune, and he doesn't play golf.
Doesn't play golf?
No, but he's wonderful at skiing.
Oh.
What?
I said, pho. Skiing, indeed. Why should a man want to ski? Is there not enough sadness in life without fixing 2 planks to your feet and going round jumping off mountains?
Oh, Angus, don't be so stuffy.
Stuffy, is it? Well, remember this. It's just a short step from skiing to yodeling. Mind you, I'm not accusing the man, but it could happen.
It has happened. Over there, Legs used to yodel all the time.
He yodeled?
He used to yodel at the Swiss waiters to make them feel at home.
Pho.
I wish you wouldn't keep saying pho.
It's enough to make anyone say pho.
Angus went home in sombre mood. He was right to be concerned. As days went by, Evangeline was clearly becoming infatuated with this yodeling trick-cigar merchant. It blighted her hours with Angus. And all the time it was Legs this or Legs that, or you Legs, we're over here. The one consolation for Angus was that Evangeline had never faltered in her devotion to the great game. Her eyes were firmly set on the lady's spring medal, and she and Angus practised together daily. But even here the worm was in the bud. What was the point of practice when Legs Mortimer kept throwing parties and the girl always attended them? She was wearing herself out. Each night, or rather each morning, it was a race between her and the milkman as to which would reach her doorstep first, with the milkman winning 3 times out of 4. Things came to a head one day when a sudden yawn caused Evangeline to top a niblick shot, which once she'd have laid dead to the pin. Angus knew it was time to speak.
Rats and double rats.
Well, what can you expect if you stop up half the night at parties?
Oh, you really think that's hurting my game?
It is ruining your game.
But everyone goes to parties.
Not when they have an important match in prospect.
Oh, and Legs' parties are such fun. He really makes them go.
Oh, yes.
Oh, he's a perfect scream. You should have seen him last night. He asked Jack Prescott to help him with a trick, and he got him to lay both hands on the table, palms downward. Then Legs put a full glass of water on each hand.
Evangeline, if you are going to survive as a golfer, you must give up these orgies.
Well, if you think it's affecting my golf, I'll try and cut them down. But I must go to the one on Friday.
Why?
Well, I promised. It's Lex's birthday.
It's also the night before the spring medal.
Oh, gosh, yes. Still, like I said, I'll have to go.
In that case, I shall come too.
But you always go to sleep at parties. You should see Legs's impression of you going to sleep at a party. It's a scream.
It's possible I might doze off briefly, but I shall wake in time to take you home at a reasonable hour.
But I don't want to go home at a reasonable hour.
You prefer to finish 16th in the spring medal?
Oh, don't say that.
I do see it.
16!
Or 17th. It would depend on whether or not Granny Pratt had her new glasses.
Oh, very well, then. Come to the party. And take me home before midnight.
That Angus made such arrangements is proof of his devotion. On Friday night, the prospect of the party seemed even more horrific. It had been a warm day, and he'd done his 54 holes, was now ready for repose. But his beloved had to be rescued from the rebels in time for a good night's rest. So Angus stifled his yawns and his urge to don his pyjamas. Instead, he got into a stiff shirt and dress clothes, took a precautionary dram, and plunged into the fray. A shock awaited him. This fine old clubhouse had been festooned with streamers, balloons, Chinese lanterns, gold-toothed saxophonists, giggling girls, and light refreshments. A citizen of ancient Babylon would have beamed at such a spectacle, but Angus was appalled. His idea of a clubhouse was a sort of cathedral, where golf was treated with proper reverence. His displeasure grew as he watched his betrothed dancing with Mortimer. Now, Angus knew nothing of the foxtrot technique, and so was uncertain as to whether or not the fellow was entitled to hold his girl like that. In any case, he didn't like it. As the dance ended, Evangeline and Mortimer disentangled themselves and came over to greet him.
Angus, you're here! I never thought you'd make it.
Good evening, Evangeline. Mortimer?
Hail, son of Caledonia! Hey, what a great dress suit! Do you think that style will ever come back?
Legs, you are a riot. Take no notice, Angus. He teases everyone.
I suppose you'll insist on whisking this lovely creature away to trip the light fantastic?
Oh, don't be silly. Angus never learned to dance. He was afraid it would spoil his golf stance.
Oh, well, one man's meat is another man's risso. Come on, beautiful. This is going to be a quick step.
The band struck up again, and Angus watched with mounting resentment as Legs Mortimer wrapped Evangeline in a warm embrace, and they began to jig about. At last he could stand the hubbub no longer. There was an annex soothingly dark at the end of the room, and into this he withdrew. He sank into a chair and immediately fell into a restful slumber. How long he slept he couldn't have said, but it seemed at a moment, but no doubt it was more. He was aroused by someone shaking him and woke to find Legs Mortimer at his side. Mortimer's face was full of alarm, and he was shouting something which, after a moment's fuddled thought, Angus recognised as the word fire. The last mist of sleep rolled away from Angus McHugh, and instantly he was his keen, alert self. With a cry of Evangeline, he sprang to his feet, and the next moment he had shot into the ballroom at great speed and was skidding along the polished floor on one ear. Angus now observed that during his slumbers, someone had affixed roller skates to his feet. He also noticed that there was, in fact, no fire, and the band was playing merrily. No, Angus McHugh was not a roller skater. Nevertheless, he managed to get to his feet and stagger a few steps before starting to totter, his arms rotating like aircraft propellers. Alas, he was airborne only briefly and then fell with a crash to the ground again. The poor fish was surrounded by a sea of happy, laughing spectators, and he realized with dismay that the happiest, laughingest face among them was that of Evangeline Brackett, and it was now that a good deal of iron entered his soul. I shall not prolong the account of Angus McHugh's discomfiture. Suffice to say that he sustained 3 more falls, in a manner which he heard Miss Brackett compare to the delivery of sacks of coal. He then escaped on all fours to the kitchen, where a kindly waiter removed the skates in return for a £1 note. After that, Angus crept out into the night, a large bruise on his right thigh and a worse one on his heart. Once home, he rubbed himself with liniment and went to bed. His mood was bitter. He'd been betrayed. And if his fiancée was ready to laugh like a mentally arrested hyena to his suffering, well, a good riddance to her. When Angus woke the next day, his feelings had softened. He was inclined to think that the girl had merely been misled. He reflected on the corrupting effect of balloons and Chinese lanterns, and persuaded himself that, once removed from such malign influence, Evangeline might yet be saved for humanity. So, when she rang, he was inclined to forgiveness.
Hello?
Good morning, Angus. How are you today?
Oh, I'll do.
Good. No ill effects from last night?
Let's not talk about last night.
You are caddying for me in the ladies' medal today, aren't you?
Of course.
Splendid. I was afraid you might want to be off somewhere. Roller skating? See you later.
There are times when a woman's laugh is as heavenly music, raising the spirit and bringing balm to the soul, but this was not one of them. This particular laugh made Angus as sore as a gumboil. When he met her on the links at 10 o'clock, he was in a black mood. I shall not dwell on their nightmare progress through the first 9 holes. It was inevitable, of course. Evangeline, after yet another late night, muffed shots all over the place, and instead of lending help and comfort, the wounded Angus sulked and criticised. And so Evangeline reached the halfway stage in some trouble, in fact, 5 strokes adrift. The walk to the 10th took the couple past the clubhouse, and thus it was that they encountered Legs Mortimer, lounging as usual against the veranda rail with a glass in his hand.
Greeting, gentles. How goes the battle? Evangeline knocking 'em all for 6 as usual?
Hardly that. I'm not in luck this morning.
Luck has nothing to do with it.
Ooh.
Angus McHugh, the cock of the north. Now listen, my wee haggis, I think it's going to be all right. I've spoken to the manager of an important circus. He says if your skating act is as good as he's heard, he'll book you solid.
Oh, yes.
Angus was aware that, as the cut and thrust of repartee goes, oh yes was scarcely a winner. But in truth he hadn't the gift of verbal swordplay. What he really wanted to do was to take Mortimer's head in both hands and twist it round and round till it came unstuck. However, Mortimer was a large, well-built animal, and McHugh was somewhat slight, so he contented himself with,
oh, yes.
And then, taking his courage in both hands, he ventured an extremely hostile,
Is that so?
Well, boys and girls, none of you look too happy at the moment. I shall speed to the bar and get another of these. When I return, I shall cheer you up.
Heavens preserve us.
Oh, Angus, for goodness sake.
What do you mean by that?
By what?
For goodness sake.
You know very well what I mean by for goodness sake. I mean, behaving like that to poor Legs.
Like what?
Like a sulky schoolboy.
Oh.
I simply can't understand you.
You can't you?
Any man with a grain of humour would have laughed himself sick at what happened last night.
He would he?
Yes, he would. When Legs played that trick on the Prince of Schlossing-Lossing, the Prince was fearfully amused.
Oh, he was he?
Yes, he was. He'd had the sense to fill up on gin, so he didn't feel any pain.
Well, I'm not a prince.
I'll say you're not.
What does that mean?
You're a... Well, I don't know what you are.
Is that so?
Yes, that is so.
Indeed?
Yes, indeed.
Well, I'll tell you what you are.
What?
You want to know?
I do.
All right, then. You're the girl who's going to be 17th in the ladies' medal.
Oh, don't talk nonsense.
I'm not talking nonsense.
Well, then it's the first time.
Listen, these wretched parties and that buffoon Mortimer have Destroyed your game.
Oh.
Your eye is dull, woman. You're peely-wally, your hand trembles, you hold your club as if it were a cocktail shaker.
Oh. I see. Well, Mr. McHugh, kindly hand me my bag of clubs and I shall trouble you no further.
Evangeline.
Miss Brackett, to you?
Darling, this is absurd. You know I worship the very tea you drive off. Are you going to let that pustule Mortimer come between us? Is our happiness to be ruined by a snake in the bosom?
My clubs, please, and quickly. I can't stand here all day. Ah, here comes Legs again.
Hello there. I thought I heard raised voices.
Mr. McHugh is unable to continue as my caddy. There's just 9 holes to go. Would you care to carry for me?
Of course, sweetheart. Carry what?
My clubs, darling.
Oh, the jolly old hockey knockers. My pleasure, fair lady.
Hockey knockers? He called them hockey knockers. Evangeline, stop this madness before it's too late.
Good day to you, Mr. McHugh.
So saying, Evangeline stalked off towards the 10th tee. Mortimer tilted his hat, donned a false moustache, which he'd produced from his pocket. Then he danced a few steps, said hot dog, shouldered the bag, and followed. And now a remarkable thing happened. While Angus lurked in the club bar, Evangeline Brackett burned up the second half of the Prior's Heath course. She was seething with rage at Angus's remarks, and somehow the rage fueled a remarkable physical vigour and sense of purpose. Mortimer entertained her between shots. As always, when wearing a false moustache, he constantly waggled the ends, and she felt she'd never seen anything so droll. The girl wondered why she'd ever let Angus caddy for her. He'd taken all the zip from her game just by mooching around like a frozen asset. Playing like a demon, Evangeline repaired the damage of the first 9 holes and arrived at the 18th in a strong position. A low score here must win her the medal. Standing on the last tee, she chatted merrily.
What I love about you, Legs, is your sense of humour.
What I love about me is everything.
Don't you hate people with no sense of humour? I mean, well, Scotsmen and people like that. I mean, I'd be the first to laugh if someone played a joke on me.
Good for you.
Now then, give me a new ball, will you? I don't want to foozle the last hole.
Your wish is my command, madam. Here we are, on the tee.
As the girl raises her club for a triumphal final drive, I must tell you what was befalling Angus McHugh. The lad had tired of sitting hunched on a bar stool, where he put several members in mind of Napoleon at St. Helena. Feeling exercise might help, he took a walk on the links, and chance decreed that he should approach the 18th tee just as Evangeline drove off. A row of bushes prevented his seeing this event, but he was astonished to hear raucous laughter. Awful, quacking, Legs Mortimer laughter, mingled with a loud cry from Evangeline. Next he heard feet pounding on the turf, and then, around the end of the bushes, came Legs Mortimer, trying to break the world speed record. Behind him, her face flushed, came Evangeline Brackett swinging a golf club. She seemed to be trying to brain him, if it's possible to brain a man like Mortimer. It was a strange sight, and Angus was moved to run after them as they sped across the grass towards a clump of trees. Here Legs abandoned hope of outstripping his pursuer. He dodged behind a leafy oak, and, with an adroitness born no doubt of his Swiss mountaineering, shinned up it like a squirrel. Evangeline stamped her foot angrily, and then, seeing Angus, ran to him and threw herself in his arms.
Oh, Angus!
Angeline, you're trembling.
Oh, how right you were!
When?
When you told me Legs was a snake. Can you imagine what he did to me? Worse than that. I needed 5 on that last hole to win the medal. I asked him to put down a new ball. And what did he do?
Tell me.
He put down a ball of soap.
A ball of soap.
One of those wretched things you see in expensive chemists. Soap. Made to look like a golf ball. That's what he put on my tea.
The man's a pervert.
I came down on it like a ton of bricks, and it simply burst. I thought I'd broken myself in half.
Oh, you poor girl.
And speaking of breaking things in half, if you'll kindly climb that tree and tip up the contents, I'll see what can be done with this driver.
Angus pointed out that a public brawl could get them both in trouble with the committee. Besides, he said, there was a better way, and he gently led Evangeline 30 yards away from the tree, and there he revealed his thoughts.
There's a hornet's nest in that tree, about 3 inches above Mortimer's head.
Oh, yes. But there's nothing stirring.
Hornets tend to sleep late. Perhaps it's time we woke them. Could I borrow one of your clubs? Niblick, I think. Thanks. And an old ball. Here we go.
Oh! Good shot! Right on the nest. Look! They're swarming!
The scene that followed came straight from the Keystone copse. Legs Mortimer catapulted from the tree and ran, apparently in speeded up motion, across the green sward to the lake. He dived in, and having done so, seemed keen to remain submerged, for each time his head came up from the smelly depths, it went under again. Evangeline smiled and took her fiancé's hand.
I know my laughing sometimes annoys you, but I really don't think I can stop myself.
It's all right. There are times when laughter's in order, even on the golf links.
So, you see, Hedges, the cheap popularity of the show-off rarely lasts.
What happened to the dreadful Mortimer?
Oh, well, they fished him out of the lake, eventually.
Pity.
Yeah, quite. But some of the members worry about water pollution. However, he went on to pay a heavy price for his silly tricks and inane jokes.
How so?
Well, predictably, he went to the United States, and there became the master of ceremonies of some sort of wireless program. I believe they call it a quiz show. Now, I expect the bar may be quieter.
Oh, I'll go and see.
Oh, good. Bring mine back here, would you, dear boy? A large Scotch will do nicely.
Listen to the tale of a stalwart male who lost his well-known nanny. Donald was his name and golf.
Farewell to Legs was narrated by Maurice Denham in the role of the oldest member. Angus McHugh was played by Joe Dunlop, Evangeline by Glynis Brooks, Hedges by Stephen Kemble, and Legs Mortimer by Robert Bathurst. The oldest member is adapted by Edward Taylor and Michael Pointon from stories by PG Wodehouse, and produced by Edward Taylor.
I took 13, and then by gosh I sunk her. I get no fun in the air and sun, but down in the traps I labor. I swear then to weep where the sand is deep, till I want to murder my neighbor.
The oldest member.
Listen to the tale of a stalwart male who lost his well-known nanny. Donald was his name and golf was the game that made him grey like his granny. He practiced much, but
Maurice Denham, as the oldest member, tells another tale by P.G. Wodehouse. Today, The Rough Stuff.
Nothing else than dirty. In the locker room every night, he'd sing of his awful plight. Oh, the dirty little Bill went rolling down the hill and rolled right into a bunker. From there to the green.
Priors Heath Golf Club in the 30s. It's a rainy afternoon, and in the corner of the smoking room, the oldest member is listening to the views of one of his younger colleagues.
My fiancée is a dear girl, but when I see her playing golf, well, I can't help thinking that a woman's place is in the home.
Pour me a little more tea, Hobbs. There's a good chap. I think I could manage another slice of seed cake.
Righty-ho, yes, of course.
Thank you. Now, you were saying, you feel that lovely woman loses in queenly dignity when she foozles an easy putt?
Well, I don't mind her mishitting. Happens to us all. My objection is she doesn't care. She's too light-hearted about the whole thing.
Ah, but that may cloak her deeper feelings. The noblest woman I ever knew laughed merrily whenever she muffed a shot, but I later learned that once in the privacy of her own home, she would weep bitterly and bite great holes in the sofa.
By Jove, did she?
Yeah, she wore a mask in public, you see, concealed her grief. It's a fine spirit for a woman.
Yes, well, I'm afraid that's not the case with Geraldine. She remains extremely flippant about the whole thing.
Oh, she'll learn, my boy, she'll learn. And you must teach her. I believe that much good may come of men and women playing golf together. I mean, take the case of Ramsden Wood.
Ramsden Wood? Where's that?
Gosh, it's not a where, it's a who. Oh. Ramsden Wood was a distinguished member of this club till a few years ago, when he and his family moved to Devon. There's a notable drawing of him in our rogues' gallery.
Ah, you mean the caricatures on the wall?
Yeah, precisely. Let me show you. Is there any more seed cake?
I'm afraid not.
Ah, all right, well, now, let me show you the picture of Ramsden Wood. I'll be glad to stretch my legs.
Yes, by all means.
Now then, amusing stuff, don't you think? You know, all these caricatures were done by that artist fellow, Mortimer.
Oh, yes. Yes, very clever, very clever. If ever I try to draw anyone, they always end up looking like the Kaiser.
Well, Mortimer usually gets his subjects to a T. He did all the members in 1930, and he caught their characters exactly. Do you see this one of George Mackintosh? The man's innate stupidity comes across wonderfully. There's young Bingham, ruthlessly determined to win everything.
He's made this chap look awfully shifty.
Ah, yes, Arthur Froggett. Well, he was shifty. Ran off last year with a publican's wife. Yes, Mortimer got them all just as they are, but his one failure, I think, is this one. Of me. I mean, this is no resemblance at all.
Ah.
I don't know why the committee let it stay here. It's a travesty.
Perhaps the artist was tired.
However, all the others are quite excellent.
Certainly a fine collection.
and yet, do you know, many of the subjects fool themselves that their pictures are quite unlike them. Well, would some power that giftig ears to see yourselves as the seers.
Very true, sir.
Now, then, here's the chap I want to show you. This is Ramsden Wood.
Yes. It's not exactly an oil painting, is he?
Oh, no, I think the fellow just used pen and ink. Now, as you can see, Wood couldn't claim to be a good-looking chap. And furthermore, he hadn't the gift of the gab, but thanks to golf, he finished up marrying the best-looking girl who ever set foot on these links. Apart from your fiancée, of course. No, I'm talking of years gone by. Let's sit down again, and I'll tell you the story.
Well, thank you, sir, but I thought you wanted to stretch your legs.
Well, that's long enough now. Sit down. This bears on the subject of women and golf, which were you discussing? Let me see. Ramsden Wood joined this club about 10 years ago. And when I said he hadn't the gift of the gab, it was like saying Nero wasn't too hot on fire precautions. The truth is, the poor chap was tongue-tied, especially with members of the opposite sex.
Poor devil.
Wood's idea of conversation was to perspire, tie himself in knots, and produce a sort of gurgling sound. If ever he managed a coherent remark, it was always concerning the weather, and he'd immediately apologize and qualify.
How did the girls react?
Oh, all the local females simply regarded Ramsden Wood as an unfortunate incident, one to be ignored. Finally, after many failed attempts at social life, Wood gave up and became a sort of hermit. His only solace was golf. He played morning, noon and night, invariably on his own, for he was too shy to seek a partner. And then, one day, there occurred the event which was to change his life. Ramsden Wood had placed the ball on the first tee and drawn back his club for a mighty drive when, from behind him, there came that noise which for some reason is described in low company as a raspberry. Wood's club wobbled as it came down, propelling the ball into the trees, and Wood, not best pleased, turned to perceive a small, fat boy in a sailor suit standing close beside him. The child seemed to be making a rude face, though Wood later learned that this was the way his features had been naturally arranged. And more to the point, behind the boy, a young woman was moving gracefully and languidly towards him. A girl of such beauty that Ramsden's heart looped-a-loop twice in rapid succession. His mouth dried up and his vocal cords got into their usual tangle. Yet, as we shall see, for once he was eventually able to utter real words.
Good morning. I'm afraid my little brother spoiled your stroke.
Not at all. That is to say,
How do you do? I'm Eunice Bray, and this is my brother, Wilberforce. He has a lively sense of humour, as you can hear. We're new to the neighbourhood, and Wilberforce adores watching golf.
Perhaps you'd, care to walk right round with me?
Well, that's very kind of you. I'm sure Wilberforce would love to. I know he'll enjoy watching you play. The thing is, he wasn't able to go to the circus last week, and this will make up for it. I'll leave him with you, then. If anyone wants me, I'll be on the terrace with my book.
I never got full details of that morning's round from Ramsden Wood. If you mentioned it, he winced and changed the subject. But he did manage to pump Wilberforce for information. He learned that Eunice and the boy were staying with an aunt who lived locally. Eunice was not engaged to be married, and the aunt's hobby was collecting seaweed, which she pressed and pasted in an album. Sometimes one thinks that aunts live entirely for pleasure. At the end of the round, Wood returned the child to its sister on the terrace, tripping over his feet as he did so. Eunice thanked him without looking up from her book, and that concluded his first encounter with the girl of his dreams. I need hardly tell you that from then on the poor fellow was enslaved. And of course his cause seemed hopeless. The instant Eunice Bray appeared in Prior's Heath, every eligible bachelor for miles tossed his head with a loud snort and galloped in her direction. Dashing young devils they were, with the faces and figures of Greek gods and the silver tongue of Lloyd George. Against them, what chance was there for Ramsden Wood with his unshuffled face and the self-assertion of a pink blancmange? And I was not surprised when Wood unburdened himself to me one evening in the bar. He was sitting alone, as usual, and it seemed only charitable to let him buy me a whisker and soda.
I got a double. Is that all right?
Oh, that's most generous, my dear chap.
Soda?
No, I'll do it, thank you. Mustn't drown it.
I don't know why. It might be glad to be drowned. I would.
Oh, come, what are you saying? You're young and fit and your life is before you.
What's the point of life if Eunice Bray won't look at me?
Oh, dear me, does she not receive callers?
She does indeed. Hundreds of them. She holds court at our aunt's house every evening. I can't even get a seat in the back row.
Tricky.
In fact, most of the time I'm stuck with the aunt.
A charming lady, so I've heard.
Possibly. But she only wants to talk about seaweed. I couldn't know more about seaweed if I were a deep-sea haddock.
Wood's sole consolation was that no other suitors seemed to be making progress either. And so matters went on till one day Eunice decided to take up golf. I gather she did this simply because her friend Kitty Manders, whom she cordially disliked, had accidentally won a small silver cup in a ladies' contest. All the other players had been so heavily handicapped that if Miss Manders hadn't won, the prize must surely have gone to her Pekingese dog. In spite of the absurd background to her win, the Manders girl constantly brought all conversations round to the subject of her trophy. Eunice was being upstaged, so she decided to take up the game herself. There was, of course, no shortage of young men eager to instruct the fair Eunice in the game of games. She did not ask for lessons from Ramsden Wood. For one thing, she never supposed that so poor-spirited a man could be any good at the game. And for another, poor Ramsden was always busy tooling around with little Wilberforce, the one favour Eunice allowed him. And then fickle fate played a remarkable trick. Eunice, by now, felt sufficiently skilled to put her name in the hat for the annual mixed foursomes. And whom should you draw as partner but Ramsden Wood? The effect on Wood was electric. The mind of a man in love works in strange ways. To poor Ramsden it appeared an act of God. It seemed to say that he and Eunice were meant to be partners in life, as well as on the links. And believe it or not, the same night their names were joined on the notice board, the poor goof went round and proposed. But it wasn't easy, of course. He had to endure a long lecture from the aunt on the subject of bladder wrack before he could join the crowd in the inner sanctum. And once there, it was some time before he managed to get Eunice alone, on the pretext of discussing the match. He then coughed 11 times in a strangled sort of way, cleared his throat twice, and finally blurted out his suggestion that wedding bells were appropriate. Eunice Bray was more startled than angry.
Of course, I'm extremely flattered, Mr.
Wood. Ramsden Wood.
Of course, yes, Mr. Wood. Obviously, this is a great compliment.
Not at all.
A great compliment.
No, really.
I wish you wouldn't interrupt. I don't like to keep repeating myself. It is a great compliment, but I'm afraid it's quite impossible.
Just as you say, of course.
After all, what have you to offer me? I don't mean money. I mean something more spiritual. What is there in you, Mr. Walters?
Wood, actually.
Mr. Wood, what is there in you to make a girl give up the priceless boon of freedom?
I know a lot about dried seaweed.
No. As I said, it is quite impossible. You have paid me the greatest compliment a man can pay a woman, Mr. Good.
Wood, I'll write it down for you.
Please don't trouble. I'm afraid we shall never meet again.
But we're partners in the mixed foursomes tomorrow.
Oh, yes, so we are. Well, mind you play up. I want to win a cup more than anything else on earth.
If only I could win what I want more than anything else on earth. If only I could win you, Miss Bray.
Wood's tongue had tied itself in a knot round his uvula. He stumbled to the door, paused with his fingers on the handle for one last look back, and then walked silently into the cupboard where Aunt Maud kept a collection of seaweed. Wood was not without intelligence, and he perceived his mistake quite quickly. He left the cupboard with a nervous laugh, tripped over the doorstop, and finally made a successful exit through the room door. Our tale now moves to the following day, the day of the mixed foursomes contest, an event which I think you've not yet experienced. It seldom attracts a large entry. Many men are idealists and wish to retain their illusions of feminine perfection, and only 8 couples reported for duty that fateful day. Ramsden Wood and Eunice Bray were to play against Marcella Bingley and George Perkins, who were favourites to win the title. Perkins was an average player, but Bingley was something special. A sturdy, weather-beaten woman with bobbed hair and the wrists of a welterweight boxer. She drove a hard, clean shot off the first tee, and then she and Perkins moved off. Before addressing the ball, Wood felt it proper to make a rallying call to his troops. It may not have equalled Henry V's before Agincourt, but it was certainly a revelation. Out on the links, his attention focused on winning the match. The tongue-tied fool of last night was miraculously transformed into a lucid man of action.
What we have to do, Miss Bray, is play steadily. Don't try any fancy shots, no risks. Play for safety.
I am sure we shall both do our best, Mr. Wood.
And you, Wilberforce, kindly remember that this is a competition, and keep your merry flow of conversation to yourself. We can't have you chattering when we're about to play.
If you think my brother will be in the way...
I don't mind him coming round as long as he keeps quiet. Right, I'll drive off first. We need a good start. Now then, good firm tee. Breeze from the left. Ah!
Good shot, partner. I said good shot, partner.
Yes, but don't talk. It wrecks concentration. And don't let me have to speak to you again.
Wilberforce? Wilberforce has been like a mouse.
Exactly. Mice make a beastly scratching noise, and that's what he was doing when I drove the ball.
He was only playing with the sand in the tee box.
Well, if he does it again, I shall be compelled to take steps.
Eunice gasped. She hadn't played enough golf to know that a genuine match can change a man's whole nature. She was still thinking of a crushing reply when Wood marched briskly off down the fairway. I will not detain you with details of the first 9 holes, for the focus of our story is on human foibles, not golfing technique, fascinating as that subject is. Suffice to say that Miss Bray played like a novice and Ramsden Wood like a master. In the other camp, the roles were reversed. George Perkins, clearly terrified of his partner, foozled and flunked, and Marcella Bingley played like Harry Varden, to whom, indeed, she bore a striking resemblance. Thus it was that they reached the halfway stage all square. Ramsden now broke his vow of silence to offer further advice to his partner.
Look here, we've made too many mistakes. I'm afraid you'll have to keep your brassy in the bag for the last 9 holes. Stick to the iron.
But Mr. Winklethorpe told me I was very good with the wooden clubs.
Yes, he likes his little joke.
I beg your pardon?
So far you've put us in 5 bunkers, 3 bushes, and halfway up a tree. You can't go on like that.
Mr. Wood, really?
All this came as a great shock to Eunice, who had been accustomed to nothing but kind words from her coaches and partners. It's true, a few bolder spirits might have occasionally suggested that some players actually keep their eyes on the ball, and that she might play even more brilliantly if she tried it. Others may even have hinted that if she refrained from swaying her head like a lovely flower, her shots might be yet more perfect. But all these implied criticisms had been couched in gentle and diplomatic terms, and now suddenly she was confronted with the rough stuff.
The fact is, Miss Bray, I've had to get us out of trouble on every hole. It's not good enough.
You seem to forget, Mr. Wood, that I am just a beginner.
Hardly. I'm reminded at every stroke. Now look, you want to win this match, don't you?
I've said so.
Right, well, stick to the iron. Keep it straight, never mind the distance.
Even off the tee?
Even off the tee. Keep it straight. Now concentrate.
Eunice Bray's mind was in a whirl. She'd never been spoken to like this before. You might suppose she'd be full of resentment, and indeed there was fury on her lovely face. But deep inside, other feelings were stirring. All her life she'd been used to homage from men, and for all those feeble specimens who grovelled before her, she felt nothing but scorn. Secretly she dreamed of the brusque ruffians she read about in novels borrowed from the village circulating library, beetle-browed scowling heroes who rode wild horses, tamed the elements and treated women like dirt. Characters like Claude Delamere in The Man of Chilled Steel, who dragged Lady Matilda across the courtyard by her hair because she gave a rose to the Italian count. Ramsden Wood, of course, hadn't yet entered the hair-dragging stakes, but he seemed to be heading that way, and a strange sensation of weakness and humility began to sweep over Eunice Bray. In practical terms, her play improved, and she and Wood might well have built a commanding lead had there not been a similar boost in George Perkins' game. Perhaps he'd received similar admonition from Miss Bingley. Anyway, he now played carefully and made few mistakes, with the result that the couples reached the final hole on level terms. Marcella Bingley was the first to play, and smacked a perfect drive hard and high down the fairway. The ball landed on the green within easy reach of the pin, a certain hole-in-two which even George Perkins couldn't foozle. Ramsden Wood needed to match her shot to survive. Now, bear in mind that for 3 hours he'd been extricating the ball from various traps into which his partner had put it, and this had taken its toll. Remember also that Wilberforce, though carefully silent, had eyed his every move with quiet malice. The fact is, Wood was under pressure. He placed the ball on the tee, took a deep breath, swung his club, and sliced the ball sideways into the lake. For a moment there was an awful silence, and then it was broken by a familiar but unwelcome sound. Wood turned. He was confronted by the sight of Wilberforce, who, having delivered his verdict on the shot, was bending over the tee box and about to make mud pies. The spectacle of his trouser seat was one which calmer men would have found it hard to resist. To Ramsden Wood it seemed to constitute a formal invitation. For a moment his number 11 golf shoe, as supplied to leading professionals, was drawn back, and then it crashed home.
Ow! How dare you kick my brother?
Madam, in similar circumstances I would have kicked the Archangel Gabriel.
He's landed in the stinging nettles.
I believe you will find dock leaves an efficacious remedy. Miss Bingley, Mr. Perkins, the match is yours. Congratulations. Miss Bray, good morning.
Wood bowed coldly to Eunice, and then stalked away towards the clubhouse. Eunice was spellbound as she watched him go. Her wrath at the kicking of her brother had died away, and she wished she'd thought of doing it herself. Oh, how splendid he looked, she felt, as she watched Ramsden Wood striding up the slope, reminding her of Carruthers' Moordyke after he'd flung Ermintrude Vanstone from him in Chapter 9 of Grey Eyes That Gleam. And suddenly Ramsden seemed to combine the outstanding characteristics of Heathcliff, a wild cat, and the second mate of a tramp steamer. Wood, of course, knew nothing of this. He only knew that he'd lost his temper and the match, and as he sat in his study that evening, he reflected that he'd blown his chance of winning the only girl he wanted. She would never forgive his brutality. He groaned and tried to forget by forcing himself to read, but the words of the greatest writers failed to grip him. Vaughan's masterpiece, The Science of Golf, swam before his eyes. He found solace neither in Braid's On the Pivot or in Duncan's On the Divot. And then the phone rang.
Hello?
Is that you, Mr. Wood? This is Eunice Bray.
Yes.
I've just remembered. Weren't we talking about something last night? Didn't you ask me to marry you or something? I know it was something. Hello? Are you there? You did propose to me, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
We didn't actually settle anything, did we?
Pardon?
I mean, we sort of left it kind of open. Well, would it bore you awfully to come round now and go on talking it over? We shall be quite alone. Wilberforce has gone to bed with a headache.
I'll be over in 10 minutes.
Well, a month later, Ramsden Wood and Eunice Bray were married, and, I'm pleased to say, seem to have lived happily ever after, together with their 6 children.
Oh, very interesting, but didn't Wood get tongue-tied again at home, away from the links? That wouldn't have pleased her.
Now that's where, for once, he was rather clever. He kept a ball and a club in the bedroom, and did a few tricky putts every time he needed to feel masterful. Now, excuse me, my boy. I want to go and speak to the secretary about my caricature on the wall. I've noticed it's offended 1 or 2 people.
Listen to the tale of a stalwart male who lost his well-known Nanny. Donald was his name and golf was the game that made him gray like his granny. He practiced much, but his style was such that his handicap stayed at 30. All the words he...
The Rough Stuff was narrated by Maurice Denham in the role of the oldest member. Ramsden Wood was played by Robert Bathurst, Eunice by Susie Aitchison, Hobbs by Julian Dutton, and Wilberforce by Barrymore Phillips. The Oldest Member is adapted by Edward Taylor and Michael Pointon from stories by PG Wodehouse and produced by Edward Taylor.
Down in the traps I labor, I swear then to weep where the sand is deep till I want to murder my neighbor.
The Oldest Member.
Listen to the tale of a stalwart male who lost his well-known Nanny. Donald was his name and golf was the game that made him gray like his granny. He practiced much, but his style...
Maurice Denham as the Oldest Member tells another tale by PG Wodehouse. Today, The Long Hole.
Nothing else than dirty in the locker room every night. He'd sing of his awful plight. Oh, the dirty little Bill, and roll down the hill and roll right into a bunker. From there to the green.
Prior's Heath Golf Club in the 30s. A peaceful, genial place. But even here, passions can sometimes flare. Witness the young man who has just stormed into the smoking room and hurled himself into an armchair opposite the Oldest Member.
If there's one thing that gives me a pain in the gizzard, it's a golf lawyer. They shouldn't be allowed on the links.
Oh, come. The law is an honourable profession. Sometimes even an honest one.
Oh, I don't mean actual lawyers, solicitors and such. I mean golf lawyers. Blighters whose most used club is the rule book. You know the sort of excrescence. Just when you think you've won a hole, they quote Rule 853, Section 2, Subsection 4. Claim you're disqualified for whistling.
You've had an unhappy experience.
I have. I was out with that man Hemingway. Oh, just a friendly round, nothing at stake except a measly ball. And there I was, going well on the 7th, when he pulled me up.
Huh?
Claimed the hole, simply because I dropped my niblick in the bunker. Oh, well, a tick's a tick, and there's nothing more to say, I suppose.
On the contrary, my boy, there's much more to say. Now, rules are rules and must be kept. Yeah, it's odd that you should have raised this subject. I was only just now recalling to myself a match which turned upon this sort of thing. Now, I should be pleased to tell you about it.
Ah, well, you know, I've had a pretty rotten afternoon
already. I call
already.
my tale The Long Hole, but it involved the playing of what was probably the longest hole in golf history.
The thing is, I half promised to go and see a man about...
I shall begin at the very beginning, but I see that you're impatient to hear the details. The story concerns 2 members of this club, Arthur Jukes and Ralph Bingham. They'd never got on well, but it was when Amanda Trivett came to Prior's Heath that their smouldering distaste for each other burst into actual enmity. After Miss Trivett's arrival, being in the same room with the 2 men was like dropping in on a reunion of Capulets and Montagues. You see, each had taken a fancy to the fair newcomer and expected her to reciprocate. and each was baffled when she failed to do so. Friendly as she was to both, actual love light was conspicuously absent from her beautiful eyes. Both Jukes and Bingham were handsome fellows and well aware of the fact. It might not be quite fair to call them arrogant, but it's a risk I shall have to take. To the two men, their failure to make progress with Amanda was surely due to only one thing. Clearly they cancelled each other out. Neither could get the girl alone. If Jukes took her flowers, he'd collide on her doorstep with Bingham bearing a similar tribute. If Bingham called with a book he felt Miss Trivett might enjoy, he'd find the place already cluttered up with Jukes. For years the men had been rivals at golf, both of equal ability and both strong players. Indeed, there were times when they were almost as good as they thought they were. Now they found themselves rivals in romance, and this was something neither could tolerate. Thus it was that I came home one evening to find Bingham waiting to see me. My man had let him in and laid him on the mat in my sitting room. I offered him a cigar, and he came to the point with commendable speed.
I have to tell you that Prior's Heath is too small for both Arthur Jukes and myself.
Ah, you've been talking it over and decided to move. Well, I think you're wise. The area is overbuilt. Men like you and Jukes need space. Where do you think you're going?
Oh, I'm not thinking of going.
I thought you said you were.
I meant that the time has come when one of us must leave.
Oh, only one of you?
I catch a hint of disappointment. Surely you won't mind Jukes going?
Oh, why, certainly not. He really is going, is he?
He is. He thinks he isn't, but he is.
I don't understand.
I suppose you've noticed the disgusting way Jukes has been hanging around Amanda Trivett, boring her to death.
Well, I have seen them together sometimes.
Well, I love Miss Trivett.
Ah, poor girl.
I beg your pardon?
The poor girl, to have Arthur Jukes hanging round her.
That's just what I think. And that's why we're having this match.
What match?
Well, this match we're having. The thing is, I want you to be one of the judges. Go along with Jukes and see he doesn't play any of his tricks. You know what he is. And we can't have any skullduggery in a match as vital as this.
Oh, you're playing for high stakes?
We are playing for the whole world.
I beg your pardon.
It amounts to that. The loser is to leave Prior's Heath for good. The winner stays on and courts Amanda Trivett.
I see.
We've arranged all the details. Rupert Bailey's to be one judge, and he'll accompany me.
And you want me to go round with Jukes, hmm?
Not round. Along.
What is the distinction?
We shall not be playing a whole round. We're to play just one hole.
Oh, sudden death, eh?
Not very sudden, actually. It's to be a longish hole. We start on the first tee here, and finish up in the town.
In the town?
In Flimbridge. The actual hole is in the doorway of the Majestic Hotel in Royal Square, a distance of some 16 miles across country.
I was revolted. A perfect epidemic of freak matches had recently broken out in the club, and I'd strongly opposed them from the start. George Willis had begun it by playing a medal round with the pro, George's first 9 against the pro's complete 18. After that came the contest between Herbert Widgeon and Montague Brown, the latter, an inferior player, being entitled to shout boo 3 times in each round at moments selected by himself. There had been many more of these degrading travesties, and I'd writhed to see them. Playing freak golf matches is, to my mind, like ragging a great classical melody. Bingham sensed my unease.
It's the only way. You know how it is with normal golf. Jukes' amazing luck frequently cancels out my greater ability. This special game will eliminate luck. After 16 miles of unusual hazards, there is no doubt that I shall... That's to say, that the better man will win. May I take it that you will be a judge?
Oh, you know I don't care for these unorthodox games.
With your aid, this match will be utterly orthodox, apart from the terrain. Royal and ancient rules all the way.
Ah.
Without your involvement, all sorts of irregularities could creep in.
Oh, very well, then. I will serve you.
Excellent. We start at daybreak tomorrow.
Oh, so early?
We want to avoid publicity, so we must reach the town before it gets too crowded. If someone's ball were to hit a policeman, it might excite a remark.
Yes, I'm sure, and I can tell you the remark it would excite.
We will all take bicycles to help us cover the distance. Daybreak tomorrow, then. And please carry a copy of the rule book.
Next morning, the atmosphere at the first tee was like that at a duelling ground in the days when these things were settled by rapiers or pistols. Bailey, my fellow judge, looked dour. I'm never at my best in the early morning. And the two rivals surveyed each other with silent sneers. Till then, I'd never supposed that men really do sneer at each other outside the movies. But Jukes and Bingham wore looks so dirty they could have fallen foul of the public cleansing department. Having won the toss, Jukes drove off first and set a fine ball well down the course. Ralph Bingham, having placed his ball on the tee, now turned to Rupert Bailey.
Bailey, would you be so good as to move to the 17th hole? I need you on the fairway there to mark my ball.
You are aiming your ball at the 17th hole?
Certainly. The object is to get to Flimbridge as quickly as possible, is it not?
But if you take that course, your second or third shot will surely land in the lake.
I have provided for that. I have a flat-bottomed boat moored by the 17th green. I shall use a mashie niblick to chip my ball aboard, row across to the other side, and then chip it ashore. From there, a decent drive should take me into Woodfield Village. I think that should save me quite a few strokes.
I gasped at Bingham's devilish cunning. Jukes had already embarked on a lengthy passage of Prior's Heath golf course. Thence he would have to go round the lake as far as Nutley Bridge. Bingham's plan cut off two sides of the triangle. Jukes was an unpleasant young man, almost, it seems absurd to say so, but almost as unpleasant as Bingham. Yet, at that moment, I have to say, I sympathized with him. Initially stunned by Bingham's audacity, he now uttered a violent protest.
What the devil do you think you're doing? You can't play fast and loose with the rules.
To what rule do you refer?
Hazards! That infernal boat of yours is a hazard, and you can't row a hazard about all over the place.
Why not?
Why not? Why not? Well, you can't, that's why.
There is nothing in the rules against the moving of hazards, if it can be done without disturbing the ball. Are our judges aware of any rule to the contrary?
No.
Besides, I'm entitled to go for a morning row, am I not? I'm sure my doctor would recommend it. I shall row my boat across the Sound for exercise. If it happens to have my ball on board, that is irrelevant. I shall not disturb my ball, and I shall play it from where it lies. Am I right in saying that is what the rules require?
Yes, I suppose so.
Right, let us waste no more time. Bailey and I will wait for you at Woodfield. Now then, ball on the tee, breeze from the left, and away we go.
Full of confidence, Bingham drove his ball high over the trees, and then he cycled briskly off towards the 17th hole. Jukes and I pushed our bikes down the hill. He faced a long halt across the course and reached the road. But there was something in the dogged way he struggled against adversity which won my grudging support. Having been so outmanoeuvred at the start, many men would have given up, but not Jukes. He hacked his way on, no doubt inspired by visions of the fair Amanda. At last we reached the high road in only 27, and Jukes began to drive his ball towards Woodfield. I was able to mount my bicycle, and the morning started to take on a rosy hue. In the pellucid air all seemed strangely beautiful. Even Arthur Jukes' heather mixture knickerbockers, of which hitherto I'd never approved. As he bent to make his shots, the sun gleamed on their seat in a cheerful and almost poetic way. The birds were singing in the hedgerows, and in my uplifted state I too burst into song. Alas, my vocal efforts were short-lived. Jukes said that while he yielded to no man in his love of farmyard impressions, their impact just now was putting him off his stroke. So, I desisted, and thereafter we went about our business in silence. The fellow was not doing badly. In the main, he used his putter, keeping his shots straight, which on the road was preferable to distance. At last, we reached the slope that descends into Woodfield High Street, and peering ahead, I perceived the opposition waiting for us as promised. Bingham was leaning on his bicycle in the roadway, smoking a cigarette, and even from afar one could detect the man's appalling complacency. My fellow judge, Rupert Bailey, leant against the door of the Woodfield garage, looking rather used up. He seemed to be scraping mud off his face, and I later learned that he had fallen into a ditch as they made their way across country. Jukes now broke the silence.
I think I might try my brassy again here. Have a good lie.
Oh, is that wise? With this slope there's no need for an air shot.
No, but it occurred to me that I might wing that blighter Bingham. As you see, he is standing in the middle of the fairway.
Oh, come. While the rules do not expressly forbid maiming an opponent, it's probably not within the spirit of the game.
You may be right. Besides, the ball might run wild. I'll stick to my putter.
And thus we proceeded, a mere 4 more strokes bringing us down the hill and up with the opposition.
Ah, you're here at last. We're playing shot 310. How are you?
9, 10, 11... Mr. Jukes has played 711.
Perhaps you'd like to give up the match, Jukes. You might just as well. I mean, you can't win now, can you?
Jukes was not a great conversationalist at the best of times, and this was far from the best of times. The rivals stood glaring at each other. Rupert Bailey had said nothing, being mainly concerned with removing alluvial deposits from his person. But now he drew me aside on the pretext of a judges' conference. His verdict was simple.
I'm going home.
Oh, nonsense, man, you can't. You're here in an official capacity. You must stick to your post. Besides, what could be nicer than a pleasant morning ramble?
Pleasant ramble, my number 9 foot. I want to get back to civilization. I need a dozen navvies with shovels to get this mud off.
Oh, you look too much on the gloomy side. You're a little dusty, that's all.
I've been buried alive. And furthermore, I cannot abide Ralph Bingham much longer.
Ah, you find him trying.
Trying? Man, he's more trying than a sick headache. When I fell in that ditch and was coming up for the 3rd time, all he did was ask me to admire his last iron shot. I had no help, no sympathy.
I have observed that the milk of human kindness is somewhat curdled in Bingham's case.
Tell your man to give up the match. He can't win now.
No, I refuse to admit that. Much may happen between here and Royal Square. I've seldom known a prophecy so swiftly fulfilled. Even as I spoke, the doors of the Woodfield garage opened, and a small green car staggered out. A young man in a grimy sweater alighted and went back into the garage, leaving the car perspiring by the curb. Bailey, Bingham and I paid little heed to this event, but suddenly there was a cry of triumph from Jukes. I looked up to see his ball looping neatly into the car's interior. Jukes himself was brandishing his niblick and dancing about with glee.
Can't win, eh? We'll see about that.
What the deuce is he up to?
I say, you there. Are you the owner of this automobile?
That's right, Gov. Little beauty, ain't she?
I'll give you £5 to drive me to Royal Square, Flimbridge.
What? Now?
At once.
For £5? Right, you're on. Hop in.
Well, well, Jukes, I suppose you think you're darned clever?
Not exactly. I know I am.
Then just tell me this. How do you propose to get the ball out of the car when you reach Royal Square?
Quite easily. On the side of the vehicle you can see a handle. When turned, this opens the door. Once that is done, I shall chip my ball through.
I see. Yes, I never thought of that.
There was something in the way Bingham spoke that I didn't like. He had the air of a man with something up his sleeve. I was still pondering this when Jukes bade me get in the car, and we drove off. Jukes was now in great spirits. He'd ascertained from our driver that no other cars in the garage were usable that day, and Bingham had no hope of getting transport. And here we were, roaring towards the finishing line. Yet I was uneasy and said so. I don't like it.
Don't like what?
Bingham's manner.
Of course not. No one does. There have been complaints on all sides.
I mean, when you told him how you planned to expel your ball...
What was wrong?
Well, he was too...
How do you mean he was too hard?
I have it.
What?
Yeah, I see the trap he's laid for you.
Trap?
No wonder he didn't object when you spoke of opening the door and chipping the ball out. By doing so, you would forfeit the match.
Forfeit the match? Why?
Because you would have tampered with a hazard, and that's against the rules.
Then what about him rowing his blasted boat?
He merely moved a hazard, which is allowed. It's opening the car door which would cost you the game.
But look, if I don't open the door, how the deuce do I get the ball out?
Well, that, my dear fellow, is a question between you and your maker.
Listen, we shan't see the others for a while. Supposing, during that time, the door sort of accidentally swung open and the ball rolled out. A bump in the road, perhaps. You would confirm it was an accident, wouldn't you?
Good grief, man, what are you saying? I am a golfer and I obey the rules.
But look here.
These rules were laid down by the committee of the Royal and Ancient at St. Andrews. I've always obeyed them to the letter, and I always shall.
I thought you were my friend.
I can't think what gave you that impression. Well, after that, no more was said till we reached Royal Square. Jukes had the driver park outside the Majestic Hotel. He then embarked on the Herculean task of trying to propel his ball from the car. It was still early, but a small crowd quickly gathered, drawn by the spectacle of a man in golf coat and knickerbockers hacking with a niblick at the floor of a car. They were soon audibly speculating on which asylum had had the honour of sheltering Jukes before his escape. Irked by this, Jukes showed some presence of mind. He pressed some money into our driver's hand and some words into his ear, and the man disappeared into a nearby printer's shop. He soon emerged with a poster which Jukes hung on the side of the car. This proclaimed,
"Come to Mackenzie and Burke, 18 West Street, for all golfing supplies."
Well, naturally, once the mob thought this was an advertising stunt, they refused to look and soon dispersed. Jukes toiled on in solitude. At 9 o'clock he played his 1101st stroke, and yet again saw his ball crash against the inside of the car and come to rest at his feet. At this point another weary-looking ball came trickling out of Bridle Street. It was followed by Ralph Bingham, a trifle wobbly at the knees, but still resolute. Hello there. Well, what's your score?
1100.
1100, eh?
Should be less, but we got into a casual dog.
A casual dog?
On the bridge. Stray mutt grabbed my 910th and carried it back to Woodfield. Bailey insisted I'd play from there. What are you?
We just played our 1101st. So, a nice, even game. Now, let's see, your ball is by the curb there. Is your shot next, I think.
Sorry, old boy, but I'm not playing another stroke till I've had some breakfast.
Breakfast?
You know the game. You play it with a pot of coffee, a mound of toast, and about 100 of scrambled eggs.
Oh, but surely you...
Don't quibble, man. If I don't get some food inside me, I'll not be able to keep my +4s up.
Tell you what, the rest of you go in an order. I just want to buy a paper.
Rupert Bailey was much too fond of his creature comforts, but I was surprised at Bingham's eagerness to break off when he was so close to holing out. However, I confess that once we were at table, the sight of food and drink was quite appealing. Even Jukes, after his long frustration, began to cheer up. He thought he'd now worked out how to get the ball from the car using an iron. Bingham joined us with his paper, and we were able to study the early reports from the US Open. At last, having refreshed both body and soul, we left the table and went outside. Jukes led the way and at once cried out in alarm.
It's gone.
What's gone?
The car. The car's gone. What happened to the car?
Oh, the car. Don't worry about that. I bought it, don't you know?
You bought it?
Just now. And I've engaged the driver as my chauffeur. A man should have a car, don't you think?
But where is it?
Well, somewhere between here and Glasgow. That's where I told the fellow to go. Why? Did you have a message for him?
But my ball is in that car.
Yes. Dashed awkward. Not sure what you can do about that. I'm afraid it means you lose the match.
Lose the match?
Well, of course. The rule is clear. 5 minutes are allowed for each stroke. If you fail to play in 5 minutes, you lose the match.
Jukes sank down on the path and buried his head in his hands. Outwitted at the start and at the finish, his chance with the fair Amanda Trivett now as good as gone, he seemed a broken man. Bingham, on the other hand, was unbearably smug. He announced that he might as well sink his ball as he was almost there, and studied the lie with an odious grin. Then a page boy came out of the hotel and paused to watch the proceedings. Bingham patted him on the head.
Well, Sonny, what club would you use here? A putter, perhaps?
Aha! I claim the match.
I beg your pardon?
I claim the match. Rule 25. A player who asks advice from anyone other than his caddy loses the match.
But this is absurd.
I appeal to the judges.
Well, we sustain the appeal. The rule is clear.
Aye, it is.
But Jukes had already lost the match by not playing within 5 minutes.
It was not my turn to play. When we broke, you were further from the pin.
Well, play now. Go on, let's see you make your shot.
There's no need. Why should I play when you have already disqualified yourself?
I claim a draw.
I deny the claim.
I appeal to the judges.
Very well. We will leave it to the judges.
A decision of this magnitude was something neither Bailey nor I had anticipated. The happiness of two young men and the hand of Amanda Trivett seemed to depend on a nice interpretation of conflicting rules. It seemed to me that Jukes deserved the verdict, but Bailey was unable to see this. Though an honest and decent fellow, he was always one of nature's fatheads. At last, we had to admit that we couldn't agree. Bingham suggested a third judge, but it was hard to see where such a person might be found. And then, like a god out of a machine, there emerged from the hotel none other than Amanda Trivett herself. She gave us one of her dazzling smiles, and all wrangling ceased at once. Providence seemed to have provided a solution. Gentlemen, why do we not ask Miss Trivett herself to decide this matter? We could have no better referee.
I'm game.
Suits me.
Good morning, Miss Trivett.
Good morning. Whatever are you all doing here with your golf clubs?
Well, these gentlemen are playing a match, and a point has arisen on which we need an outside opinion. Would you consent to arbitrate?
Well, I'd like to help in any way I can, but I really know very little about golf.
Well, the rules can easily be explained. We just need a common-sense view as to which rule should prevail.
No, really, I'd rather not. But if you'll wait a moment, Jack Barnes will be here. He knows everything there is to know about golf.
Who's Jack Barnes?
My fiancé. He's just back from a year in Australia, and we're to be married next month. Shall we ask him to decide, Mr. Bingham?
No. No, don't bother.
Are you sure? What do you say, Mr. Jukes?
It doesn't really matter now.
I wonder if the Majestic has any of that excellent scrambled egg left.
Listen to the tale of a stalwart male who lost his well-known nanny. Donald was his name, and golf was the game that made him gray like his granny. He practiced much, but his style was such that his handicap stayed at...
The Long Hole was narrated by Maurice Denham in the role of the oldest member. Jonathan Taffler was Ralph Bingham, Gordon Kane was Arthur Jukes, Sue Holderness was Amanda, and John Graham was everyone else. The Oldest Member is adapted by Edward Taylor and Michael Pointon from stories by PG Wodehouse and produced by Edward Taylor.
I get no fun in the air and sun, but down in the traps I labor. I swear then to weep where the sand is deep till I want to murder my neighbor.
The Oldest Member.
Listen to the tale of a stalwart male who lost his well-known nanny. Donald was his name, and golf was the game that made him gray like his granny. He practiced much...
Maurice Denham, as the oldest member, tells another tale by P.G. Wodehouse. Today, the Magic Plus Fours.
Nothing else than dirty in the locker room every night. He'd sing of his awful plight. Oh, the dirty little bill went rolling down the hill.
Prior's Heath Golf Club in the 30s. It is mid-afternoon on a crisp winter's day, and the smoking room is nearly deserted. But not quite. At the fireside, two figures are almost adjacent, the first being a semi-permanent part of the decor. It is the oldest member, dozing in his regular armchair after a leisurely lunch. The second man is a recent arrival. George Pennyfather came in from the links but 5 minutes ago, and since then has sat peering at the log fire and muttering to himself.
Oh, what the heck. After all, golf is only a game.
The oldest member awakes, stiff with horror. He peers round to check that none of the waiters heard these terrible words. Then he looks at Pennyfather with amazement.
Oh, come, my boy, you're not yourself.
Well, perhaps I went too far. I was just thinking that a fellow's got no right, just because his game has come on a bit lately, to treat a fellow as if a fellow was a leper or something.
Ah, something upset you on the links. Now, come on, tell me all.
I was playing Nathaniel Frisbee.
And I take it he beat you?
He did, but I don't mind losing. What I object to is the blighter behaving as if he were a sort of god, condescending to a mere mortal.
Indeed. You're saying he's becoming arrogant?
More than somewhat. His telegraphic address should be Arrogance, Prior's Heath.
Oh.
Dash it. It seemed to bore him playing with me. Every time I sliced, he looked at me as if I were a painful ordeal.
Oh, this must be since he won the spring medal.
I even caught him yawning. And when I'd lost, he started talking about what a good game croquet is, and wondering why more people don't take it up.
I'm afraid sudden success at golf is like sudden wealth. It mars the character. I'm put in mind of the case of Wallace Chesney.
It's not as if I was playing all that badly.
Now, the Chesney story illustrates my point exactly.
I must tell you about a rather good shot I managed on the 9th.
I'll try to recall the salient points. The tale may afford you some comfort.
From the moment I addressed the ball...
I see you're agog to hear the details. Listen closely, and then you won't have to talk to Frisbee when he comes in.
Ah...
The Chesney saga is one of pride encompassing its own downfall. much in the manner of those Greek plays one was compelled to act in at school. Now, as you know, golf is the natural enemy of pride. How many haughty spirits have been brought down to earth by the muff drive or the foozled putt? Golf reminds us of our human fallibility. Think of those who are denied those salutary lessons. I attribute the insane hubris of the later Roman emperors almost entirely to the fact that they never fluffed a chip on the green. And had Cleopatra been outed in the first round of the ladies' singles, we should have heard less about her proud imperiousness. No, such notables lacked humility, and they lacked it because they didn't play golf. At the outset, Wallace Chesney had humility, and he had it because he did play golf, and played it very badly. I should explain that in all other respects Chesney was a success. He was engaged to Charlotte Dix, and when you saw her, you realized that being engaged to her should have been quite enough good luck for any one man. At golf, however, he was lousy, and that kept vanity at bay. One of the more delightful experiences at that time was to hear Charlotte teasing Chesney about his lack of golfing prowess. He always took it well.
There we are, darling. G&T for you and me, and whiskey for you, sir.
Oh, thank you kindly, dear boy.
Thank you, Wallace. Do you know, what I can't understand is why people pay to go to the circus when there's such a good free show here.
Free show?
Yes. They only needed to walk over the hill this afternoon and they could have watched you trying to get out of that bunker.
In trouble, was he?
You could certainly say so. He blasted out all the sand and the ball stayed where it was.
Well, not quite true, sweetheart. I did get out in the end.
Yes, but 20 strokes is an awful lot for one hole.
Well, never mind. We had fun, didn't we?
Yes, a thoroughly pleasant, modest fellow, and a first-class, 100% hallmarked dunce at golf. But I mustn't give the impression he didn't care about the game. He practiced early and late. He bought golf books and manuals, and he constantly sought gadgets that might improve his game. On one occasion, I recall, he bought something called a wooden-faced driving mashie, as foul a thing as was ever produced by a club maker who had clearly been dropped on his head as a baby. I found him fondling this object on the terrace, and naturally I remonstrated with him. My dear Wallace, that device will be as much use to you as a bent hockey stick.
Well, I don't know why you should say that. According to the label, it makes it impossible to slice.
Well, I should think it's impossible to hit the ball at all. Still, as long as it amuses you. Oh. Now, what is more serious is the matter of those new, brightly coloured +4s you're wearing. I take it they are +4s and not something borrowed from a pantomime dame?
Certainly they're +4s, designed for no less a golfer than Sandy McHoots, the former Open champion. He returned them to the shop for some reason.
Or possibly he feared for his eyesight.
I was up in town yesterday and I allowed myself a shopping spree. Well, I know these breeches are colourful, but why not? I fancy them, and they'll give my game the lift it needs. I suppose you think they're too loud?
Deafening was the word in my mind. No, it's rare to see such a combination of pink, yellow, white, and green, and that's only the left leg.
Well, frankly, sir, I don't care. For years I played in grey flannel trousers and got nowhere. All the crack players wear +4s, and that's what I'm going to do in the future. If opponents don't like it, well, they can play somewhere else.
I admire your spirit, my boy. Has Charlotte by any chance seen your new togs yet?
No. As a matter of fact, I thought I'd surprise her. She'll be here shortly.
Oh, indeed, I see her coming now.
She's an outgoing type. She'll approve, I'm sure.
Ah! No! Quick! Do something before I have to look again!
Charlotte, what's the matter?
Wallace, for heaven's sake! Pop into the changing room while I've got my eyes shut and change that fancy dress.
Are you talking about my new +4s? Well, what's the matter with them?
Darling, I think it's sweet and noble of you to be proud of your cycling club colours, or whatever they are, but you mustn't wear them on the links. It'll unsettle the caddies.
Look, I know they're a little on the bright side, but wearing them helps my game. I was trying a few shots just now on the practice green. I couldn't go wrong. They inspire me, if you know what I mean.
Look, you can't really intend to play in those. You can't. It's against the rules.
What rules?
There must be some rule against going around looking like a sunset. Won't you burn them, darling, for my sake?
Sorry, Charlotte, no. I tell you, they give me confidence. I sort of squint down at them when I'm addressing the ball, and I feel like a pro.
Right. There's only one thing for it. I'll have to play you for them.
Play me for them?
If I win, those outrageous knickerbockers are mine to burn. If you win, you can go on wearing them, and I won't complain. That's fair, isn't it?
Well,
Come on, my boy. Be a sportsman. You can't refuse a challenge like that.
Oh, very well. But you'll have to give me a half. I haven't won for 6 months.
And so the couple made their way to the first tee, Charlotte pointedly donning an eye shade as she went. I didn't see their return as I'd retired to the reading room, the latest edition of Golfers Monthly having just come in. But I had a full account of it from Raymond Gandel, a prominent and vociferous member of the club. He'd made it his business to meet them as they reached the veranda.
Ah, Chesney. Miss Dix?
Hello, Gandel. Miss Dix?
Chesney, it's clearly no use appealing to you, as I know that several members have already done so without success.
The +4s?
The +4s, indeed. Miss Dix, I represent a select committee of Priors Heath golfers, and I am here to ask you a favour on their behalf.
Fire away.
Will you kindly use the influence of a good woman to induce Chesney to destroy those +4s of his? We all consider them nothing short of Bolshevik propaganda and a threat to public well-being. May I rely on you?
I'm afraid not. Those +4s are his mascot and his inspiration, and they've transformed his golf. He's just beaten me hollow. I'm going to have to learn to live with those +4s, and the rest of you must do the same.
Oh, this is absurd. You say a pair of lurid breeches has transformed his golf?
That's right. They give me faith in myself.
And they give everyone else a pain in the neck.
To the thinking man, nothing in life is more remarkable than the way in which humanity adjusts to conditions which at first seem intolerable. This was strikingly illustrated by the behaviour of our members under the impact of Wallace Chesney's +4s. For the first few days, it's not too much to say that they were stunned. Nervous players sent their caddies on ahead at blind holes so that they might have advanced notice of Chesney's looming presence. Even the pro was not unaffected. Though reared in Scotland, in a tartan environment, he nevertheless winced at the sight of these bizarre pantaloons. And yet, within 10 days, things were getting back to normal. The +4s simply became part of the landscape. They were pointed out to strangers, together with the waterfall, the Lover's Leap, and the view from the 8th green, as things you shouldn't miss when visiting the course. But apart from that, they aroused little comment. Meanwhile, Wallace Chesney was making startling progress in his play. He was beating players whom once he couldn't have lived with. By chance, I was away for 2 or 3 weeks at this time, staying with a friend who had 9 holes in Norfolk. When I returned, Priors Heath was abuzz with news of Chesney's advance. Charlotte Dix it was who brought me abreast of events.
Honestly, you won't believe it. Wallace beat Ralph Bingham yesterday.
Oh, good Lord, is Bingham ill or something?
No, he's on top of his game, but Wallace went out and thrashed him.
Wearing the +4s, I suppose.
Absolutely. He'll never wear anything else on the links.
Did he still have the better of you?
No, completely. When we play, which isn't very often now, he insists on giving me 3 strokes on every hole. And he putts one-handed.
Oh, remarkable. Can it last, do you think?
It shows no sign of waning. I just hope it doesn't go to his head.
Alas, the girl's words were to prove prophetic, as we shall see. But for the moment, all was triumph. Wallace Chesney had quickly trounced all the players we classed as unfortunate incidents and moved on swiftly to demolish those we regarded as middle rank. And now he'd beaten Bingham, currently rated second only to Raymond Gandel. It was clearly a case of auto-hypnosis, but of course nowhere else is self-belief as vital as in golf. In his magic +4s, the man felt invincible, like Achilles. By midsummer, his name was bandied about in connection with the July medal. And then, as success built upon success, a darker side of the picture emerged. The first I learned of anything wrong was when Raymond Gandel entered the clubhouse bar one evening, looking displeased. Ah, Gandel, were you playing this afternoon?
I was.
How did it go?
He beat me.
Oh, well, then he, whoever he is, must be a very good player. Unless you were giving him some impossible handicap.
No, we played level.
Indeed. Who was your opponent?
Chesney.
Wallace Chesley beat you playing level? Oh, that's amazing.
He's improved out of all knowledge.
Well, he must have done. Do you think he'll ever beat you again?
I know for a fact that he won't, because he won't get the chance.
You surely don't mean you won't play him again because you're afraid of losing?
Certainly not. It's not losing I mind, it's the wretched fellow's attitude.
His attitude?
His downright supercilious arrogance. Do you know, once he was on top, he actually criticised my mashie play.
Good Lord.
Worse, he stopped the game on the 14th tee to show me where to put my blasted feet. And on the way back, he told me that the beauty of golf was that a top player could always enjoy playing, even with a duffer, because he could practice for his medal.
Wallace Chesney prayed to a swollen head? I can scarcely believe it.
You needn't take my word. Ask any of the chaps. Most of them won't play him anymore.
But I'm horrified.
You've heard about his engagement, I suppose.
His engagement?
To Charlotte Dix. She's broken it off.
Oh, no.
Yes. She couldn't stand him any longer.
Well, I was aghast at Gandel's words, and I decided at once that I must do all in my power to heal this breach. I had great affection for both parties. I was obliged to stay at the bar a little longer, as poor Gandel seemed anxious to ply me with whiskey, and I felt it my duty to stay and console him. But as soon as I could, I left and made my way to the house where Charlotte Dix lived with her aunt. At first, small talk prevailed, but finally the aunt retired to some secret lair, as aunts fortunately do. As soon as we were alone, I broached the burning issue. Charlotte, I've heard the news.
What news?
Well, the dreadful news about your engagement. I'm told you've broken it off.
You've heard correctly.
Is there no hope of a reconciliation?
Not unless Wally reverts to his old self. He's become conceited and condescending.
There's things as bad as that?
I refuse to marry a man who treats me as if I were a Weimar note at the current rate of exchange. And simply because I slice the occasional shot off the tee.
But surely you see that it's not Wally's talking, it's those infernal +4s of his.
Well, until he can learn to stop talking through his +4s, he can count me out.
Clearly, the girl was deeply upset. I pressed her hand and left silently. The cause seemed hopeless, but I decided to persevere and made my way to Wallace Chesney's house. I was resolved to appeal to his finer feelings. His man let me in, and I found Chesney in his sitting room polishing a putter. Now, it was significant that this putter was an ordinary one, such as any capable player would use. I mean, in the past, the only putters you saw in his hands had been patent, self-adjusting gadgets. Things like croquet mallets that had taken a wrong turning in childhood. The man was in a hearty mood.
Oh, hello, old chap. Good to see you.
Wallace, my boy, how are things?
I'm knocking 'em cold. My word, you should have been there last week when I slaughtered the potential entrants for the July medal.
Yeah, I hear you're in fine form.
Understatement of the year. I'm really on top of my game. Quite frankly, I don't know why the other fellows bother to turn up when I'm around.
No, confidence is a great thing.
Yeah, it's just as well you're semi-retired. I'd hate to see an old friend in tears.
My boy, there is a serious matter I wish to discuss.
Did you know I beat Gandalf? Well, I didn't just beat him. I put him through the ringer and hung him out to dry.
Wallace, I've heard the sad news.
I tried to give him a few tips, but he didn't respond. Sad news? Well, what sad news? Don't tell me the competition's off.
No, not at all. Oh. No, the fact is, I've been talking to Charlotte.
Oh, that.
I gather she's ended the engagement.
Yes. Well, I rather think it's all for the best.
All for the best? What do you mean?
Well, one wouldn't wish to be unchivalrous, but she's really not a very good golfer. Nowhere near my standard. And there is such a thing as a chap throwing himself away, you know.
Great heavens. What has got into you?
Ah. Are you turning against me too?
But don't be absurd.
You might as well. Everyone else has.
My boy, you're not happy, are you?
Well, since you ask, I'm not as happy as I ought to be now. Funny, you know, when I was a dud, I used to envy all the crack players buzzing around the course, winning matches. In those days, one decent shot was enough to make me happy for the day.
Yeah, I know the feeling well.
Now, I play brilliant shots all the time, and there's precious little satisfaction. All that's happened is, other players are jealous. They've all got it in for me. No one loves me.
The dog loves you.
The dog doesn't play golf. Though if he did, I'll bet he'd play better than some of the fatheads I meet out there.
Oh, now, come, dear boy. If you're a little unpopular, that's the kind of talk which has brought it about. Why must you be so arrogant?
Arrogant? Me? What nonsense.
No, you need a little tact, a little forbearance. I'm sure Charlotte still loves you, but you wounded her pride. Why must you be so rude about her tee shots?
Well, I can't help it these days. It exasperates me to see anyone foozling, and I have to say so.
Beneath the bravado, Wallace Chesney was clearly a troubled soul. It didn't affect his game, however. He continued to wipe the floor with all opposition, and as the July medal contest approached, he was the clear favourite. I use the word in the racing sense, of course. I mean that everyone expected him to win. In terms of popularity, he was no one's favourite. He was about as well liked as a brewer at a temperance rally. And when the great day of the contest arrived, I was sad to see how cold his fellow members were towards him. No spectators watched him drive off in his magic +4s. His drive, of course, was brilliant, but not a hand clap was heard. He had drawn as partner the hapless Peter Wills, one of Prior's Heath's natural disasters. Chesney had let it be known that this pairing was like putting a Derby winner in harness with a Totter's nag. And his view, of course, had reached the ears of Wills himself. And these ears had gone bright red and were still glowing as he drove off the tee. Needless to say, Wills topped the ball. Wallace Chesney was moved to speech.
For goodness sake, man, what's the point of playing at all if you insist on lifting your head?
I didn't, did I?
Of course you did. Keep it down, man. Keep it down.
Sorry.
You don't need to watch where the ball is going. It's unlikely to go very far. Make up your mind to count 3 before you look up.
Thanks.
There was no pride in Peter Wills to be wounded. He knew the sort of player he was. As he went off to find his ball in the bushes, Wallace Chesney lingered on the tee, lighting his pipe with exaggerated patience, the sign of an irritated man. And then he strode off purposefully to complete his hole in 3. The first 9 holes went as expected. Peter Wills played like a retarded gibbon. Wallace Chesney played like an angel, but without the sweet disposition. By the halfway stage, he led the field, 5 strokes better than Gantle. But at the 10th, the lake hole, Nemesis lurked. There was a slight delay in starting, as the couple in front had not yet cleared the green. Chesney stood nonchalantly at the tee, filling his pipe and ignoring his partner's nervous attempts at conversation. Finally, he lit the pipe, returned the matches to his hip pocket, and seeing the coast was now clear, prepared to address the ball.
Now those fools are clear, perhaps we can get on. Ouch! Wills, what on earth are you up to? Have you gone mad?
Sorry. I had to slap you. There was a wasp on your breeches. I was afraid it would sting you.
A wasp?
There it is, on the ground. I'll finish it off.
Thanks. Right, now then, should do this in 3 again. Get the line right.
Just a second, Chesney.
Don't talk now, man. Can't you see I'm lining up my drive?
But it's rather important.
Be quiet, Wills. It's the golfer's worst crime, speaking to a chap when he's making a stroke.
Oh, sorry.
Right. Breeze coming from the left, I think. Ah! Oh, I'm on fire!
Yes, that's what I wanted to mention. Your +4s are alight. I must have hit the matches in your pocket.
Oh, help! It's out of control.
Yes, I think there's only one thing to do.
What?
I think you should go and jump in the lake.
It is, of course, a cardinal rule of golf that a player should accept no advice from anyone but his caddy. But the warmth around his lower limbs was now so fierce that Wallace Chesney decided to stretch a point. He took a dozen quick strides and entered the water with a splash. The lake, though muddy, is not deep, and presently Chesney was to be observed standing up to his waist a few feet from the bank. His opponent was all solicitude.
Well, that should have put it out. Lucky it happened at the lake hole. Give me your hand and I'll pull you out.
No.
Why not?
Never mind. Just send a caddy up to the clubhouse. Tell him to fetch the grey flannel trousers from my locker.
Oh. Ah, I see.
Wallace Chesney was compelled to stand in the water for some time, to the chagrin of other golfers playing through. Many complained that his sudden presence added an extra mental hazard to an already difficult hole. But eventually the trousers appeared, and Chesney, encircled by a group of caddies, was able to change into them. 5 minutes later, play resumed, and he stood on the tee once more, ready to drive. As he addressed the ball, he was aware of a change in himself. The charred remains of the lurid +4s lay under a nearby bush, and in his old grey flannels, Chesney suddenly felt diffident, feeble, and uncertain of himself. As he waggled his club, his eye fell on the concertina drabness around his shins, and the shaft seemed awkward in his hands. Nevertheless, he swung it and hit the ball, which almost inevitably looped high and sideways into the lake.
Hard luck, old man,
said Peter Wills, always a generous foe, and the words struck an almost forgotten chord in Chesney's breast. A sudden love of his fellow men flooded over him. Dashed decent of Peter, he thought, to sympathise, and when Wills promptly sliced his own ball into the water, Chesney heard himself say,
hard luck.
Too. Harmony was complete. An hour later, when Raymond Gandel had been declared the July medal winner, and Wallace Chesney was reported to be still on the 10th, some lingering loyalty moved Charlotte Dix to walk over and find him. She came upon the remarkable and endearing sight of 2 grown men crying with laughter as ball after ball sliced into the lake.
Good Lord. What are you 2 up to?
Oh, just playing my 65th, old girl.
65 for the first 10 holes?
No, 65 for this one.
Yes.
Watch out, darling, I'm going to drive.
Oh, hard luck, old man.
Thanks. You'll go.
Right. I'll try a higher swing.
Hard luck on that.
Thanks. Your go.
Oh, I say, this is the life, eh? Think how good we're going to feel when we get one on the green.
You'll never do it like that, you chump. Look, place your feet like this, right?
Yeah.
And slowly back.
Right.
And keep your eye on the ball.
And so the crisis ended. Whether or not the +4s were magic, we'll never know. But there were rumours that when a caddy threw the remnants into the lake, a hand rose from the water to catch them. But I think that was invented by one of our more ribald members. At all events, without them, Maurice Chesney was a goof again, and he and Charlotte were married shortly afterwards. So, you see, Pennyfather, the swollen head is often a short-lived malady, best ignored.
Yes, I'm sure you're right. But I wonder where the fellow bought those +4s. Do they still make them like that, do you suppose?
No, enough, my boy. Don't even think about it.
Listen to the tale of a stalwart male who lost his well-known nanny. Donald was his name and golf was the game that made him grey like his granny.
The Magic +4s was narrated by Maurice Denham in the role of the oldest member. Wallace Chesney was played by Julian Dutton, Charlotte by Melanie Hudson, Peter Wills by Jon Glover, Raymond Gandel by David Simeon, and George Pennyfather by Joe Dunlop. The oldest member is adapted by Edward Taylor and Michael Pointon from stories by PG Wodehouse and produced by Edward Taylor.
I took 13 and then by gosh I sunk her. I get no fun in the air and sun, but down in the traps I labor. I swear then to weep where the sand is deep till I want to murder my neighbor.
And you can hear the last story in the series at the same time next week.
The oldest member.
Listen to the tale of a stalwart male who lost his well-known nanny. Donald was his name and golf was the game that made him grey like his granny. He practiced much.
Maurice Denham, as the oldest member, tells another tale by PG Wodehouse. Today, there's always golf.
Dirty in the locker room every night. He'd sing of his awful plight. Oh, the dirty little Bill went rolling down the hill and rolled right into...
Prior's Heath Golf Club in the 30s. Excitement is in the air, for it's the day of the Mixed Foursome Cup. The oldest member has his friend Basil Wagstaff staying for the weekend, and together they have strolled across to observe events. Wagstaff gasps with admiration. He is clearly impressed by the young woman who has just teed up. She has a sort of queenly air.
That's a jolly handsome woman.
Who? Ah, Mrs. Pym, yes, she's very much admired in our little circle. One half expects the caddy to go down on one knee.
The face seems oddly familiar. I seem to have seen it before somewhere.
Ah, no doubt in the newspapers. As Clarice Fitch. Oh, she was a good deal in the public eye.
Good Lord. You mean the girl who used to fly across oceans and things? And cross Africa on foot and whatnot?
Precisely. She's now Mrs. Ernest Pym.
Well, I never. She looks like Cleopatra to me.
Yes, it is the sort of bosom where an asp could feel at home.
And who's the little man going up to speak to her?
Ah, that's Ernest Pym, her husband.
Her husband? Amazing. She looks as if she could eat him for breakfast.
Well, let us walk a little closer, and we may hear their conversation.
Not the driver, darling.
Oh, darling.
No, darling. You know how shaky you are with the wood. Take your iron, darling.
Must I, darling?
Yes, darling.
Very well. You know best, darling.
This exchange has given the friends much to talk about. But talking is best done with a glass in the hand. So they now repair to the clubhouse terrace, where Wagstaff sits, quietly boggling.
You look surprised, Basil. Rather like a fish I once caught off Brighton Pier.
Well, it's astounding. if you told me that a girl like that would respond to criticism by cooing meekly, well, I'd have laughed in your face.
Oh, then I'm glad I didn't mention it.
I mean, if ever a wife was cut out to be the boss.
Yeah, quite. But I assure you that since they came together, it's Ernest Pym who's ruled the roost.
What is he, a lion tamer?
Oh, no, he's an average adjuster.
Good at his job?
Oh, apparently. I'm told he'll adjust your beautiful average at the drop of a balance sheet. But his true calling is golf, and it was at this club that they met.
Is that so? Was it love at first sight?
Oh, by no means. Do you believe in Providence, old chap?
Well, up to a point. Nothing fancy, of course.
I believe there is a Providence which watches over all true golfers. And nowhere is its hand more clearly seen than in the case of Clarice Fitch and Ernest Pym. Have another glass of wine and I'll tell you about it. It's perhaps 2 years since Clarice Fitch joined this club as a social member. She was spending the summer with a local aunt while waiting for her new aeroplane to be built. Her arrival had a startling effect on all our young males. Chaps who'd played for years in baggy mud-stained flannels now rushed off to their tailors in search of form-fitting suits of +4s. Moustaches were curled, ties straightened, and shoes cleaned that hadn't been cleaned for years. Now, of all those stunned by the onset of Clarice Fitch, none was more awestruck than Ernest Faraday Pym. Within hours of meeting her, he'd shaved for the second time that day, put on a clean collar, and started reading love sonnets. I ran into him at the chemist's where he was buying sticko, a preparation for smoothing the hair and giving it a brilliant gloss. He further inquired if the chemist knew of something to remove freckles. But neither he nor any of the other suitors made the slightest headway with their goddess. In my capacity as oldest inhabitant, I enjoyed several conversations with her. But for the younger men of Prior's Heath, she had no time at all. Ernest Pym was worst affected, and in due course he came, as they all do eventually, to consult me.
I tell you, I can't eat, and I can't sleep. This unrequited passion is beginning to affect my work.
Oh, indeed? Oh, that's serious.
It's true. Sometimes in my office, as I start to adjust an average, her face comes between me and it, and I adjust it all crooked. You seem to know the lady. What can I do to make her return my love?
Oh, well, there is no easy answer, but having spoken at length with Miss Fitch, I can offer a few guidelines.
Oh, please. Anything you can tell me.
Well, what none of you young chaps seem to realise is that Clarice Fitch is essentially a romantic girl. That's why she crosses Africa on foot, but it'd be much cheaper and easier by train.
Yes, I understand. She's a romantic.
And being a romantic, she demands a romantic lover.
I sent her flowers?
Oh, no, that's the wrong sort of romantic, dear boy. The trouble is you, like all the rest, cringe before her. That's not what she wants. She wants someone strong and masterful.
Strong and masterful?
She compares you unfavourably with a man like Magwumpy.
Oh, a man like... what was the name again?
Magwumpy.
Ah.
The chief of the Magwumpy tribe. He made a deep impression on Miss Fitch. Indeed, I think something might have come of it had he not already got 27 wives and 100 spares.
Oh, that's outrageous.
Oh, possibly, but that's the kind of forceful personality Miss Fitch is seeking. Another thing. She speaks in glowing terms of a novel called Perfidious Passion. Now, the hero of this work, Sir Jason Carteret, tends to kick the heroine with his riding boots on.
And she puts up with it?
Oh, she loves it.
And Miss Fitch approves of this?
Well, she does, and it's also Sir Jason's custom, from time to time, to fetch her the odd blow with his gauntlet, just to let her know who's in charge.
Good Lord. And you think that's the kind of man Miss Fitch wants?
I do.
You don't feel that if a fella had a nice singing voice and was gentle and devoted?
I do not.
I see. But this kicking business, I mean, to start with, not quite me, is it? Just the same, I would like you to speak to her on my behalf. I shan't give up yet.
I saw little hope of success, but since the young man had asked, I felt I must at least make an attempt. My chance came the next day, here on the terrace. I came upon Clarice Fitch sitting moodily reading a copy of the Explorer's Monthly. As I approached, she hurled it down in disgust.
Drat! Amelia Earhart's got him first across the Kalahari. I'd have done that if Vickers weren't so beastly slow with my plane.
Miss Fitch, good afternoon.
Oh, hello.
Do I gather you've been pre-empted?
It doesn't matter. There are plenty more deserts and oceans once I get airborne again. Just as long as I'm first across the Pacific.
May I sit down?
Please do. I'd be glad of someone to talk to. I joined this club for the social life, but it's about as lively as Pharaoh's tomb.
I'm sorry we fall short of your hopes.
I expect it's my fault. Waiting for the plane. I'm getting bored.
Perhaps you'd enjoy yourself more if you were married.
Married? To one of these local stiffs, do you mean?
You're not attracted by the young bloods of Prize Heath?
Young what? They're all human rabbits. Listen, do you think novelists draw their characters from real people?
Well, some do and some don't.
I was reading chapter 26 of that book last night. There's a meet, and Lady Pamela rides over hounds. And Sir Jason catches her a juicy one with his riding crop just where it would make her think of it. Now, if I knew a man like that, things would be different.
I know a man in this vicinity who loves you fondly.
I know 50. To which of these jellyfish do you refer?
Ernest Pym.
Golly, the trees bird.
Pardon?
My aunt foolishly let him into her house last night. Before I got rid of him, he'd managed to get to the piano and sing "Only God Can Make a Tree."
Ah, did he?
He did.
Pity.
Furthermore, he's the worst yesser in a neighbourhood congested with yes-men. Weedy little brute. He looks like a shrimp with dyspepsia. I'm afraid you have mentioned the one man on this earth I wouldn't marry to please a dying grandfather.
My heart sank. I was stunned that Ernest Pym should have committed that mad folly at the piano. Now, since the deed had been done, I didn't refer to it when I reported back to Ernest Pym that afternoon. I found him practicing chip shots near the 7th, and apart from the trees aberration, I gave him a pretty full account of Miss Fitch's views.
Weedy little brute, did she say?
Yeah, that's right. A weedy little brute.
A shrimp?
With dyspepsia.
And she wouldn't marry me to please a dying uncle?
Grandfather.
I see. Well, it looks as if I have much chance.
Very little as things stand.
I shall thrust her image from my mind, immerse myself in work, stay longer at the office.
Just more average.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, of course, there is always golf.
Ah, indeed, there is always golf. They say you're in the running for the summer medal.
Do they?
Yeah, they do. Just practice hard and anything's possible.
The trouble is, I've always felt that half the fun of winning something would be telling one's grandchildren about it. Now it seems there won't be any.
Oh, nonsense, my boy. There'll be other opportunities. You'll meet some homely little woman with a modest handicap.
No, never. If I can't win Clarice Fitch, I'm out of the race. Well, it's golf, golf, golf for me from now on. Here, watch this.
Ah, good shot, sir. Ernest Pym placed a beautiful chip on the green. Alas, not all his shots were as good. And when I spoke of his chance at the summer medal, I confess I did so more to give the young man an interest in life than because I really fancied his chances. It was a strong field that year, with at least 3 men likely to beat him. Arthur Jukes for one, Ralph Bingham for another, and above all, Wilberforce Bream, the likely favourite.
Still, Pym was as good as his word. He practised every moment when he was not being called on to adjust averages, and clearly he was becoming a better player and a finer person. This was proved by an incident that occurred the day before the medal contest. I was enjoying a quiet smoke on the terrace when Clarice Fitch came out of the clubhouse, plainly somewhat miffed. There was a frown on her lovely forehead, and steam seemed to issue from her finely chiselled nostrils, as with a cartoon bull. She threw herself into the chair next to mine, and sat, simmering gently till ready.
Miserable, undersized microbe.
Who on earth can you mean?
Your chum, Ernest Pym, that's who. The nerve of the wretched glass-eyed insect.
Oh, dear me. What has young Pym done to incur such wrath?
For some reason, my aunt finds him almost tolerable. So, when she was stuck for an escort, I thought he'd do. Well, I rang and told him to take her to this matinee tomorrow. And would you believe it, he actually refused.
What, tomorrow? My dear girl, tomorrow's the day of the summer medal competition.
You mean Pym turned us down just so he can stay here fooling around with golf balls?
So saying, Clarice Fitch rose and stormed off, fuming like an oriental queen having trouble with the domestic staff. I resumed my cigar with an uplifted heart. I was proud of Ernest Pym. At last, he'd remembered that he was a man and a real golfer. I felt that all he needed now was to win the summer medal, and the thrall in which Clarice held him would be broken forever. I was delighted, when I woke up next morning, to find the weather fine and the breeze mild. Ideal conditions for Ernest Pym. At 2 p.m., I walked with him to the first tee, and he was in fine fettle. Confidence gleamed from his spectacles, and his tweed cap was set at an angle that could almost be called jaunty.
Give it a good firm tee. There we are.
Best of luck, my boy.
Thanks. Right. Here we go.
Oh, well done. Straight down the middle.
Let's hope I can keep it up.
Oh, I'm sure you will. And now, Pym, you'll have to excuse me. I'd like to follow you round, but I'm a touch of lumbago today.
Oh, sorry to hear that, sir.
No, it's nothing, but I'm sure you'll forgive me if I go and find an armchair. I'm bound to be kept informed of your progress.
Of course. Thanks for getting me started.
As Ernest Pym strode towards the first green, he had the look of a man of purpose, like Columbus off to discover America. I began to feel that he might really pull it off. For my part, I retired to the smoking room. I may have dozed off, for play was well advanced when Freddie Bassett came in, flushed from the sun and clearly bursting with news.
Young Pym's playing the game of his life. He's 3 strokes clear at the moment.
Ah, and what about the favourite?
Oh, it's a good day for the bookies. Bingham's right off his game. He'll be lucky to break 90.
And Jukes?
Oh, Jukes was going well till he hit trouble in the rough at the 9th. He got into a casual sardine tin and took 10. Now he's gone to pieces.
We must try not to laugh. And Wilberforce Bream, how's he faring?
Oh, the worst. He put 3 in the water at the lake hole, and he's torn up his card and gone home.
Oh. Yeah, odd business, our 3 aces all off form at the same time.
Oh, it's no coincidence. I hear the Fitch girl turned all 3 down, one after the other, during the course of yesterday evening.
Ah.
You know what a broken heart can do to a young man's game.
Indeed, almost as bad as lumbago.
God knows why they ever let that woman in the first place. She knows nothing about golf. She's walking round on the links now, not watching the play, just taking exercise.
Well, I hope she doesn't distract Ernest Pym.
Oh, unlikely, I'd say. He's playing like a man possessed. Now that the Tigers are off the map, I'm backing him to win.
Good man.
There's just one dark horse. Young Ramsden Wood has suddenly turned it on. Well, I must get back and see how Pym copes with the 12.
I resolved to defy the twinges in my back and return to the links for the closing stages. The lumbago had been much eased by the application of an old Scottish remedy taken internally, and I decided another glass might be beneficial. I closed my eyes to meditate on life and golf, and I must have dozed again, for when I opened them the sun was perceptibly lower. The early finishers were already back in the clubhouse, and none was contending for the prize. The word was that it was a 2-horse race between Pym and Ramsden Wood. I made my way out to see the end of the match, but was checked on the veranda by an alarming spectacle. Clarice Fitch was approaching, and once more rage was written all over her classic features. In addition, she appeared to be walking with difficulty. "Oh, Miss Fitch, has something happened? You're limping."
You'd limp if some maniac had hit you with a hard ball.
What?
Completely irresponsible. I was strolling along, enjoying the air, and I stopped to tie my shoelace.
Uh-huh.
Well, suddenly something came whizzing along like a bullet and struck me.
Oh, good heavens, where?
Never mind.
I mean, where did this happen?
Well, down in the field, there.
You mean the 18th fairway?
Is that what you call it?
Was a man driving off the tee?
He was standing on a sort of grass platform, if that's what you mean.
What did he say when he came up to you?
He hasn't come up to me yet, but when he does, he'll regret it. Just give me 2 minutes to rub in some arnica and powder my nose, and I'm going to get back to deal with that wretched little pimple.
Ah, was it by any chance Ernest Pym who did this?
It was.
I'm sorry.
Not half as sorry as he'll be when I finish with him. His head's not much to look at, but it'll fit very nicely on our dining room wall.
As Clarice Fitch limped indoors, I hurried to the 18th fairway. Pym had to be told that an angry explorer was lying in wait, one whose bite might well be fatal. As I approached, I saw Pym studying his ball, which lay about 80 yards short of the green. When I got close, Pym looked up and blinked at me inquiringly, and I noted with surprise that his face was totally devoid of glass.
Oh, it's you.
Oh, yes, it is indeed.
Didn't recognize you at first. Broke my glasses at the 15th, and I can't see much, unless it's close.
Oh, my dear chap, so you're out of the running.
Out of the running? I should say not. I've been going like a train. Not seeing properly seems to help me concentrate.
Oh, that's remarkable.
Well, knowing I can't follow the ball, I don't lift my head, you see. And as I can play this course from memory, I think I've got the medal in the bag.
Really?
Bassett tells me the Wood has finished in 75 and leads by 3 strokes. There's no one behind me, and I'm on 72.
So, do this last hole in 2 more strokes, and you won.
Exactly. Mind you, I should stand even better. This drive was on its way to the green when some bally sheep got in the way and stopped it here.
Sheep, you say?
Yeah, fancy letting sheep stroll around the course. If it hadn't been for that, I'd be on the green already and on my way to 73.
Yes, but I think I ought to tell you
Still,
that...
a couple more strokes should sink this blighter.
I had intended to warn the young man that what he'd hit was not a sheep, but an angry tigress. Now I reconsidered. To signal the lurking danger might put Pym off his game, and he was going well. Why not let him finish quickly? Better to alert him once he'd sunk the winning putt, and he might then effect a quick getaway. After all, though Clarice Fitch had spoken of emerging from the ladies' cloakroom in 2 minutes, par for that particular course was normally nearer 10. So I said nothing, and watched as Pym played a nice mashy shot onto the green. Oh, well played, sir.
Where did it go?
Well, it's on the green, but there's a little wide of the pin.
How wide?
Possibly 15 feet.
Ha! That'll be easy. I've been laying 15-footers dead all afternoon.
Would that Pym had never uttered these words. Confidence is a fine thing in the game, but it should be unspoken confidence. The gods of golf lie in wait for the presumptuous. Pym walked boldly to his ball for the putt that would win him the medal. I stood by the hole to give his limited vision something to aim at, but of course he knew the lay by heart, struck his ball neatly and firmly along the right line. I was confident of a happy ending as it made straight for the hole, but then, as I held my breath, it started to hesitate, and Barely an inch from the cup it stopped. Stony-faced Pym strode up and tapped it in for 75. Oh, hard luck, old man. Still, you tied the match. You'll have to play off for the medal tomorrow.
And all because of that infernal sheep. If someone will lead me to the blasted animal, I shall prepare it for gravy and mint sauce with my own hands.
Pym, my boy, I think you should know that it was not a sheep that intercepted your ball.
Not a sheep? Well, what was it then? A dog? A yak?
No, not a sheep, not a dog, nor any other four-legged friend. It was, in fact, a spectator.
By Jupiter! A spectator? Someone who should know better? You mean some subhuman idiot strolled across the 18th fairway at the height of the medal contest? Well, of all the... Oh!
A flood of anger swept the young man's face and words failed him. Some physical outlet for his wrath seemed essential, and he hurled his putter from him as far as it would go. And now the gods of golf, who were clearly having a field day, intervened again. Unseen by us as we watched the ball, the vengeful Clarice Fitch had been approaching fast, and she had just reached the edge of the green when Pym's putter struck her squarely on the shin bone. She let out a shrill scream and toppled backwards down a small slope. Pym was horrified.
My God, what was that? Did I hit someone?
Yes, I'm rather afraid you did.
Oh, it sounded like a woman.
It was Clarice Fitch.
Clarice? I hit Clarice Fitch with my putter. Well, quick, I must go to her.
The young man was distraught, as any young man might be who seems to have crippled the girl he loves. For it was obvious from Pym's reactions that Clarice was still his heart's desire, and he rushed across to the place from which he'd heard her cry. He reached it just as the wounded aviatrix pulled herself back to the edge of the green and stood ruefully rubbing her leg. Remember that Pym was still without benefit of his glasses, and as he flung out both arms to comfort her, his right fist caught her a telling blow in the face, and down she went again. There was a tense silence as Ernest Pym stood transfixed with horror, while Clarice Fitch pulled herself upright for the second time, and then she said something amazing.
Oh, Ernest, can you ever forgive me?
Forgive you?
All right, I know it won't be easy, but when I was beastly to you, I thought you were a mouse. I had no idea that underneath you were a raging lion. I thought that blow with the ball was an accident, but now I know what you're really made of. Oh, Ernest, I'll be your slave forever.
And so, Basil, that's how the couple came to enter the tournament of life together. Ernest Pym, having won the medal the next day, recognized the rich vein of luck he'd stumbled upon and schooled himself to be masterful. This demeanour did wonders for his professional life, and I gather that last year he was elected Grand Master of the Worshipful Company of Average Adjusters.
But Clarice Fitch, what of her flying career?
When they married, she gave it up. She left the first crossing of the Pacific to Amelia Earhart, with sad consequences for that good lady.
Well, I'm blowed. Whatever next?
Oh, thank you, Basil. How about another bottle of this excellent Chablis?
Every night he'd sing of his awful flight. Oh, the dirty little Bill went rolling down the hill and rolled right into a bunker. From there to the green I took 13, and then by gosh I sunk her.
There's Always Golf was narrated by Maurice Denham in the role of the oldest member. Ernest Pym was played by Michael Fenton-Stevens, Clarice by Helen Atkinson Wood, Basil Wagstaff by Alan Thompson, and Bassett by David Simeon. The oldest member is adapted by Edward Taylor and Michael Pointon from stories by PG Wodehouse, and produced by Edward Taylor.
From him it never parted. Once he hit a shot, believe it or not, that came right back where it started.